It's the 2019 Fall Sports Preview Show, and it starts right now.
Welcome here inside the Fall Sports Preview Show, only on 88.7 FM WRHU and streaming live on Facebook at WRHU Sports. I'm Julia Pressey alongside my co-host Grant Francis, as we will be kicking off the Fall Sports Preview Show with the defending CAA champions, the Hofstra volleyball team. This team is filled with a lot of talented players led by head coach Emily Mansour. But before we dive into this team, make sure you go follow the Hofstra University Instagram account, as myself and Gabby Verano will be taking it over and showing you behind the scenes of this incredible show. And while you're also on social media, follow the locker room on Instagram and Twitter at WRHU_TLR. Now, Grant, before we talk about this amazing season that the Hofstra volleyball team had last year, how have you been? How was your summer?
I have been great, and my summer was fantastic, as you know, Julia.
Yes, I know, Grant. The Blues won the Stanley Cup last year. Just rub it in a little bit more, right?
As a St. Louis, it's our time to celebrate, okay?
All right, you know what? I'll give it to you. You deserved it. It was a great win by you guys.
Thank you.
God, I just said this on record. That was a little...
It's a really well-fought series.
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
So, let's get right into it, talking about last year for this Hofstra Pride volleyball team. They finished the season 25-8 overall, 13-3 in the CAA, which was good enough to earn first seed in the CAA tournament, which they went on to win, obviously. It was their best season since 2014, and they were really led by Laura Mashulo and Louisa Sidlick alongside others, but it was really just overall a great season for the Hofstra Pride, and probably one of the best in team history.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was just awesome to be able to just sit there and call those games together and just see this team come together as the year progressed and just really make it to that CAA championship. I mean, I remember last season where they were in the NCAA tournament against Nebraska. Me, you, and Lyanne, she just sat in Hof USA, and we watched that team because we really dove into this team and picked this team up as a team that we wanted to watch. Well, yeah, like you mentioned, Laura Mashulo and Louisa Sidlick, I mean, they led this team, and they're coming back returning as seniors this year. So the incredible season that they had last year, putting up record numbers for both of them, record seasons for both of them. I mean, I can't wait to see what this season holds, but last year was definitely a success for this whole team year all around.
Yeah, Laura had 466 kills last year, which led the team. She was the CAA championship most outstanding player, which was really no surprise once it was all said and done. Louisa Sidlick, she was the setter of the year. She led the team in assists with 1,468, which to me is just an insane number. Aisha Skinner was a great player that was added last year as a rookie. She was second on the team in kills. She did lead the team in errors, which was one thing that maybe, as she departed last season is maybe something to look at that was positive from that. But no, she had a great season last year as CAA Rookie of the Year. Maddie Appleton was another one of those freshmen that really stepped up as the libero and really played well. She led the team in digs with 498, so she was really a great addition. But they are going to be losing quite a few seniors that played really well last year with Michaela Rukley, Doris Bagoya, and Nanishka Perez. But, of course, Perez is back on the coaching staff now, so she's still with the Hofstra Pride, even though she won't be playing on the court. But, yeah, I mean...
Overall, this season it was just incredible last year for them. I mean, you kind of named the whole team, but anyone who was on that court last year that played for the Pride, I mean, you saw it. They all had a goal in mind. It was to win the CAA at the end of the season, and they did that, and they made it back to the NCAA tournament for the 9th time in program history. So that's something that you want to see, and hopefully this year will be for the 10th time in program history. But, I mean, all around, there was records set all around in every match that they went into. They improved match after match after match. And I think that comes down to Emily Mansour. I mean, last year was her 5th season leading the way, and she was CAA Coach of the Year. I mean, you led this team. You had all the right girls in all the right places, and that's what you just saw. The girls had so much chemistry. They gelled super well together, and that's what happened in their style of play. And you saw that, if somebody made an error or messed up, they all came in and like, you know what, we got it. Like, let's refocus and do that. And they all knew what to say, or it was just like a look of the eye, and they knew what they had to do to get it done. And when they came down to it in the 5th set, if they got to the 5th set against tough opponents, they were there and they knew what to do and how to win. And that's what you wanted to see. Yes, did they lose key players going into this season? But you know what? You have to look at this team last year and be like, this is how great we were. This is the mark that we set for ourselves. Let's now beat it again this season.
Yeah, and you talk about what Coach Mansour brings to this team. It's just an overall confidence, it seems like, of these players that they can win in any situation. I mean, when it was the semifinals of the CAA tournament against Towson, and they were up 2-0, 2-0 in the match, and they ended up dropping set 3 and 4. You kind of got a little nervous going into the 5th set. They ended up winning that set 15-10. So you can just tell that no matter what situation they're in when their backs are up against the wall, she's coached this team so well to the point where it doesn't matter what situation they're in. You're always confident in their ability to come back and win matches or just close them out if they're up 2-0.
Exactly.
Whatever situation they're in. It was a tough NCAA tournament in Nebraska, as expected, really, because Nebraska's always one of the best teams in the country, and you're in their home court. They have one of the best fan bases of volleyball and college sports. So they did lose in 3 sets, but they held their own in the first set. They only lost that set 25-19. I think that's a pretty good outing for a set against a team like Nebraska.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, Nebraska is a powerhouse. They had over 10,000 people there, and it's the first time that many of these girls have ever played in an arena that big. I mean, the MAC is huge and dedicates its own court to the volleyball team, but it's nothing like going to a Big Ten school like Nebraska. And I mean, this is the second time, back-to-back times, making it to the NCAA tournament that they happen to play Nebraska. I mean, no luck. And head coach Emily Mansour is just kind of done playing them. They want to play somebody else in the NCAA tournament. But it was a good look for them. It got the Hofstra name out there, and you see that in the teams that they're then going to be playing this season. They held their own, like you said, in that first set. I mean, in the last 2 sets, it kind of went a little bit more downhill than they expected. But overall, they came out there, and they came out like, you know what, we're going to be the underdogs. Let's try and prove everybody wrong. And that's what the best part of it was. But it all just comes down to just how they were coached, and you could see that game, match in and match out, of just how, whatever they did, it was Emily Mansour's leadership and just the players and their ability. I mean, they just stunned me every time I watched or called a match. I was just stunned by the ability that they had to go out there, hit the ball. Whatever they did, I was like, oh, my God, what are you doing? It was just incredible.
And they had such a resiliency to them, too. Whenever they were down in a set or down in a match, they would always – you never felt like they were out of a match. It was almost like they were always right there. You expected them to win night in and night out because that's just the team that they had last year, and they consistently were able to do that. And it's going to be interesting to see, too, now that, they've had that experience in Nebraska. They're going up against Penn State tonight at Penn State. That's another college that has a great volleyball program and a lot of following on that program. It's going to be interesting to see how that experience in Nebraska helps them in situations like they're going to be in tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And while, like we had mentioned, all the great things that everything has happened for them, there's also some downfalls. So, and there's, like you mentioned, there's a lot of errors. And I think their biggest problem last year was their service errors. While they had 214 service aces, they also had 264 service errors. That led the CIA in service errors right there. And that was an issue that they faced. I mean, their opponents only had 179 service errors. So you were giving points away, and those made certain sets that they shouldn't have been that close, even closer.
Right.
And that, you don't want to give up a point here and there because you don't know what's going to happen down the line. So that's something that I think coming into this that they really need to work on.
Yeah, and the service errors is something that they didn't just struggle with last season. That's been an ongoing sort of thing for them, where they just tend to rack up a lot of service errors along with their service aces. But a lot of those service errors actually came from the player that gave them the most serving aces, which was Ivania Ortiz. She's not on the team this season, so we'll see how that kind of affects the service aces, the service errors. We'll see how that overall gets affected by that. But, I mean, you look at the leaving seniors with Michaela Ruckley, Doris Begoya, Nanishka Perez, and Kaylee Denham as well. And the impact that they had on the team last season, it seemed like whenever Hofstra was up against their backs up against the wall, it seemed like Michaela Ruckley and Nanishka Perez were the 2 players that would always just give that extra push. And it's going to be interesting this year to see who those 2 players will be to give that extra push and kind of fill the shoes of Nanishka Perez and Michaela Ruckley.
Yeah, but definitely I think with Perez, I mean, she had over 186 kills. That's anytime, like you said, that they needed somebody, it was either Perez or Ruckley, and Ruckley just signed with a professional team in Italy over the summer.
Right.
So that was incredible to see that you have these talented players out there on the court representing Hofstra and Hofstra volleyball that can go and play professional when they leave here. And that just gives credit to, Ruckley, but also to the coaching ability of the coaching staff of Emily Mansour and the rest of the staff. but also Perez comes back and now going to be on that coaching staff. So you have that secret weapon in the back and everything. And, every CAA team is going to come in to play Hofstra, and they're going to be nervous. They came in last season, and it was a different atmosphere. When you play on the road and you're playing at Hofstra, it's something that Hofstra has, where it's just that added, I don't know if it's the pep band or what it is, that something that it just, I think, affects those players of the CAA when they come in to play in this house. And I got to give it to the Pride. They really, used that and capitalized on that. And I think that had a key into a couple of different things that they had to win.
Yeah, and they were 10-2 on their home court last season, so they really were a great home team. And, you look into just how great this team was last season with the CAA awards. You look at players like Louisa Sidlick, who won the Setter of the Year last season. Aisha Skinner, who was the Rookie of the Year. Emily Mansour was the Coach of the Year, which was really no surprise at that point, too. Laura Mashulo, first team CAA. Michaela Rukley, Aisha Skinner, second team. Louisa Sidlick, third team, which really doesn't make sense if she was the Setter of the Year.
No, I agree with you on that one. I think that maybe, I don't know what went on with the CAA. Obviously, we don't vote in that, but I think with Sidlick there, she, like you said, she led the CAA in assists. I mean, Setter of the Year, I would expect her to be second team at lowest, but definitely to be on the first team, joining Matt Shulo. But overall, I mean, you have these awards, and now maybe that's something that Louisa will use to, come back and be like, you know what, I'm going to prove everybody wrong this season. And it's something, I mean, like we said, both these players are great last seasons, and they have to really keep it up. Year after year, they grow as a player. They improve on their game. No matter what it is, even if it's something so minor, they're going to improve on it and get better. And I think that's something that, I can't wait to see this season when they step out on the court. Yeah,
speaking of proving people wrong this year, the CAA preseason polls with Hofstra being second, JMU being first, that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds at the end of the year. But Hofstra was picked third in the preseason polls last year, and they ended up winning the whole CAA. So we'll see what happens there. But overall, I believe that this will be a really good year for the Hofstra Pride. I think they'll pick up right where they left off last season, and I don't really see them taking a step back at all. If there is one aspect of their game that I could see them taking a step back in, it might be in Aisha Skinner's role on that right side. I don't know if there's anybody that was at Aisha Skinner's level last season that could step up and take that role this season.
Right.
But at the same time, Aisha Skinner was a freshman last year. We didn't know much about her at the beginning of the season. She came in and she actually, did what she did. She was amazing. So we'll see if anybody can really fill that right side role and how that right side will play out this season for the Pride.
Yeah, and I agree on with that one, but we also have to look at the positives of that. You're returning, at the setter and you're outside here. I mean, like they had mentioned, is that they're roommates. They know each other inside and out, and that's the best part. And you need that. The chemistry on the court is something that they had really well of last season, and they have to be able to develop that quickly this season because these girls have to all gel together. I mean, you had 8 returning players and you have 8 new players coming in this season, so it's definitely something that they're going to have to work on. But we'll talk about that when we get a little bit further on into the show when we're previewing this year to come for the team.
Right, and we heard a little bit of that chemistry in the interview that we'll later be hearing from Laura Mashulo and Louisa Sidlick. They talked about that chemistry, and if there's anybody on this team that or anybody in the CAA really that has a great chemistry, it's going to be Mashulo and Sidlick, just because of how they've been able to play with each other all 3 years. They're roommates. I mean, it doesn't really get any better than that on terms of teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, we can't say it anymore. They had an incredible season last year, went 25-8, and they advanced the NCAA tournament where they fell to Nebraska. And we're just gonna hope that this season is going to be a great season to come. But before we get into previewing this upcoming season, we're gonna go over to Lou Acamano with the sports update.
Thanks, guys. Earlier today, the Hofstra Pride field hockey team fell in their season opener against Wagner. The final score was 3-0. The Pride look to get their first win of the season this Sunday at 2 p.m. against St. Joe's. Over on another field for the Pride, the women's soccer team traveled out to Brown University to try to improve their record to 2-1 on the season. The score is currently 0-0 in the first half. From the fields to the court of the Pride, Hofstra Volleyball traveled out to Pennsylvania to battle against Penn State. First serve at 7:30. In the MLB, the Chicago Cubs clobbered the Milwaukee Brewers 7-1. Nicholas Castellanos smacked this ball for his second home run of the game to give the Cubbies a 5-0 lead.
Castellanos drives one in the air, deep left center. Get out the tape measure, long gone. Castellanos' second home run of the day. Cubs lead
Sound courtesy of MLB. The New York Mets are on a losing streak as of late. They are on the road tonight as they battle the Phillies. Manager Mickey Callaway had this to say about his team this far in the season and tonight's matchup.
You have to move on. I know we say this every time we lose. You do. You really do. You have to move on, regroup. We got to go into Philly and take care of business.
Sound courtesy of the MLB. With your fall sports preview show update, I'm Lou Acumano. Now, let's get back to our hosts, Julia Presti and Grant Francis.
Back inside the locker room on 88.7 FM WRHU and streaming on Facebook Live. Grant Francis alongside Julia Presti. It's the volleyball hour of the Fall Sports Preview Show. We already talked a little bit about last season for the Pride, and a few days ago, we sat down and talked with head coach Emily Mansour. And coach, what has it meant to this program to go into this season as the defending CAA champions?
It's definitely a wonderful thing because meaning we won the conference last year and we get to host the tournament. It's a big honor and a lot of responsibility going to the season.
This season you have Laura Maschulo and Louisa Sidlick, who is setter of the year. How important is it to be returning both of them?
They have been playing a major role in our program. The leadership that they are bringing and the understanding of how we like things to be done really is going to be the difference on having such a young team being able to produce and to achieve the highest goals that we have for them. So I think Laura and Louisa are really going to be the driving force behind what we're going to be able to accomplish.
What impact has this senior class had on you as you have watched them grow on and off the court since freshman year?
And the three seniors that we have in our program this year, Luisa Sidlick, Laura Machulo, and Lenishka, have been out. Lenishka only have been with us for 2 years, but really has been taking a lot of care and a lot of really respect for what we do here. So it's been wonderful to see her transformation just 2 years, even though she didn't have a chance to really be on the court. Louisa and Laura, since the moment that they stepped foot at Hofstra University and became a Hofstra University student athlete, they really had a major impact both on and off the court, but really having them lead this year, it's been a lot of fun to just see the transformation, the changes that they had from the beginning until now.
And now last season your team had a lot of chemistry on and off the court, and this year you add 2 transfer students and 6 freshmen to the roster. How do you think this will affect the chemistry of the team?
As every first season, right? First day on the season, it's pretty tough. You are getting, it doesn't matter if it's 8 new players or if it's 1 new player, it's going to change the chemistry. But as I mentioned before, the leaders of this group really have been taking a lot of charge to really make sure they are getting to know each other and that they are speeding up the process a little bit. It is hard, as every year the beginning of the season is, but it's really exciting because we're going to have a lot of new faces and new people bringing in great contribution to the program.
So is there any one player in particular this season to watch to have a breakout year?
Honestly, all of our A players. I don't want to point anyone right now because I really do think they are still fighting for spots on the court. And we do have a pretty strong class that it's going to be fun to watch. So I think all the names and every one of those ladies at any point have a chance to be on the court.
And now you're entering your 6th season as head coach of the volleyball team. How does it feel to have all the experience in your background, to be able to coach in such a tough conference?
And we are very blessed to be here at Hofstra. I am very blessed to be here at Hofstra and have the chance to be getting to my 6th season because every year is so hard and every year is a new challenge and it's exciting, and we have such wonderful people around us to help and different coaches that I can go to that help me out because they have a pretty tough schedule on their sports, and having their guidance to help me better myself, it's really exciting. But I think we get ready on everyday basis here to participate on the CAA and to really compete as one of the top teams on the conference.
How does it feel to be able to open up your season at the Penn State Classic against the hosts who are ranked 8th in the country?
It's special and it's great. We talked to our team this year. It's all about the process. It's all about November, right? So we really got to build and we got to go against the best from the beginning to see how far we are right now and what we're going to become when November reaches. So I'm excited for the schedule because we start really hard at the preseason. We finish preseason before we get to the CAA with our home tournament, which is going to be a pretty tough tournament. But this is all part of the process of becoming the best in November with the young team that we have. So I'm really excited to go and play at Penn State on Friday.
And now you have a very difficult non-conference schedule. How will this help your team prepare for CAA play coming up in the next few weeks?
Oh, it's going to be really important to see how we're going to react to the wins and, unfortunately, the losses that are going to happen during this time, and how our younger players are going to react to it. And I think this is really a crucial part of why we're going to be successful in November, because it's really going to take a lot out of us to mature very quick with the results, and we need to be able to respond and be good on the next day. So I'm excited to see the tough schedule we have.
The Hofstra Invitational has teams like Oregon, Duke, and St. John's in it. And how big is that for your team right before the opening of conference play?
And it's huge for us as coaches too, because we're going to have to be very smart on lineups and different things that we do, because we get to start the season, the CAA, on that week right after. So I think this is going to be a big test for all of us involved in volleyball. And I'm excited because it's a great thing to have good teams coming to Hofstra to compete and wanting to be part of the tournament that we are hosting. So that's exciting.
Now, the first 3 matches of the conference schedule are away on the road. How will that impact your team?
It's okay. We are used to it. I don't think that has any different impact, because we got to be away a lot during preseason with that in mind, and it's part of the schedule. We got to be ready to perform at home or away. So we don't stress so much about being away.
And now your first home match is against Northeastern in the CAA play. How important is it to come out of that match with a win?
Any CAA match is really important to come out with the win. And being at home where the championship is going to be, it's huge that we really learn to be really strong here and to defend our home court and really take pride to be hosting and to be the best that we can in our home this year.
And now you have a lot of tougher competition in CAA like Towson, JMU, and Charleston, just to name a few. But who do you see as your toughest competition this season?
This year it's been very interesting because we've been talking a lot of schools graduate, a lot of talent, and getting a lot of new talent. So I think we have 3 or 4 teams really barreling out for anything that can happen. So the huge JMU got voted #1 on the conference, so it's always fun to play them, and I think that's a name that we're going to be talking about a lot.
As we mentioned earlier in the show, you guys were picked second in the CAA preseason poll, and what are your thoughts on being picked second in that poll?
It's okay. It's on us to prove that we are the #1 and to do the work to be the #1, because the preseason poll, it's important, but it's really not what we are focusing on. We are focusing on what's going to happen when November comes and we get to represent here at home.
And now last season you guys were regular season champs, and you also won the CAA tournament. What does it mean for you guys to be able to defend your CAA title on home court at the end of the season in the CAA tournament?
It's really special. I think for our seniors, it's something that really, at least since I've been here for 6 years, no one else had the chance of experience. And I think for all of us, it's going to really be a very fun and exciting experience. And I hope this is just motivation for us to continue to be able to do this in the future.
Now, you were able to coach Nanishka Perez as a player, and a year later she's on your coaching staff. So how excited are you to be able to work with her as a coach?
Oh, very much so. Nanishka, as I always said, when I coach her, she really is an example of a Hofstra student athlete is, and having her back to teach our student athletes is really exciting.
And now we're going to do everybody's favorite time during a preview show interview. We're going to go to our rapid fire. So the first thing that comes to mind, just blurt it right out. What's your favorite food?
Beans.
Favorite place to travel?
Brazil.
Favorite place to play on the road?
College of Charleston.
Favorite drill to run in practice?
Coach on 1.
Best way to prepare for a match?
Being focused and working hard every day.
And best way to celebrate a win?
Getting ready for the next one.
All right, so we end every rapid fire with this thing. Hofstra wins the CAA if?
We teach our young players the importance of any win and any loss on the CAA conference.
And a big thank you again to Hofstra Pride head volleyball coach Emily Mansour for sitting down and speaking with us the other day. And man, she's one of my favorite coaches to interview here at Hofstra. She's always been one of my favorites to talk with, and she's just always gives good answers, and
she doesn't just give good answers. She also gives good hugs.
Yes,
she always
she does.
gives me a hug
That's a
every
good
time we
point.
do an interview,
Yeah.
and I just love being able to sit down and interview her. But yeah, I agree with you. She gives very good answers. But the thing that really stuck out in my mind was when she's talking about the non-conference schedule. I mean, you're going up against Penn State. I mean, you're opening up against Penn State tonight. I mean, talk about a tough one,
Yeah.
number 8th ranked in the country, and she goes, I'm ready for it. She's ready for it. She's okay if her team loses tonight because she wants to see how they mature over the season and how they can build from a loss, like a tough loss like that, especially because it's going to get them ready for November when they're going to be playing really tough competition in the CIA tournament and hopefully in the NCAA tournament as well.
And it's really so important to have a tough non-conference schedule because even though you might be setting yourself up for more losses than if you would have given yourself, maybe a little bit of a easier schedule in the non-conference, it really prepares you for the in-conference play. And if you give yourself an easy non-conference schedule, then you're really not setting yourself up well for CAA play. I feel like, the team would be a little bit more relaxed heading into the conference play. So I love the mindset of getting teams like Penn State, Oregon, Duke, St. John's into the schedule and being able to build up for CAA play.
Yeah, absolutely. But also being on the road at this Penn State Classic tournament, I mean, you're getting this team to gel together. You're getting that chemistry to build there. And like she said, it's when you have a team that first comes together for that first practice in the gym, nobody knows who each other is besides the returning players. So that's something that you can really see from them. It's going to be good to start off today in Penn State and really get everybody to gel together, go out for those team dinners, do your team outings and everything. And so maybe you don't win against Penn State tonight, but if the team gets closer and the chemistry starts to build, that's a positive that you take away from tonight's matchup.
Yep, and these non-conference matches as well, they really help just give you an identity too. There's so many new faces for this team that the lineup that they're going to put together tonight is definitely not going to be the same lineup that they're going to put up at the end of the regular season.
Right.
So it's a feeling out process, and going up against good competition really helps you narrow down who you want, where you want them, and how often you want them on the court.
Yeah, and it also just prepares you. If you're in a tough fifth set against, Towson, JMU, whoever, and your back's been up against the wall against Penn State or anybody else you're going up against, it's okay because now you know what it's like to be on that losing end, and the girls don't want that. So I think that's going to help prepare them too mentally, and that's, I think, what she wants. I mean, she knows what she's doing. She's been coaching for now going to be her 6th season. She knows what she does. She knows how to get these girls prepared to really start off this season, and I can't wait to see how it really shapes up when it comes November.
Yeah, and not only will the experience that these players will be getting this year help them, but even the players from last season that got to play in Nebraska, they can help these new players that are maybe freshmen that haven't seen a big crowd like Nebraska or Penn State. They could kind of help them get a feel for it, and especially with the non-conference play like Penn State going in there, these new freshmen will be able to get a feel for it. And maybe when it comes down to the CAA play, when there's not 8,000 people watching you, it's not going to be as nerve-wracking. The matches will mean just as much, if not more, being CAA play, but they'll be prepared for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And a special thanks again to head coach Emily Mansour for sitting down with both of us earlier in this week. And now we have the new season. It starts very soon in the next few minutes as they open up against Penn State. Can't wait to sit down and watch after our hour's over. But let's kind of talk about this upcoming season. They have a CAA title to defend. They want to get back to the NCAA tournament, hopefully not against Nebraska. But, like you mentioned, 8 new players, 8 returning players. It's going to be a tough season for them just within and of themselves, also with this tough competition that they're going to be playing.
Yeah, and you talked about the returning players. You've got 8 returning players and 8 new players. So it's split right down the middle when it comes to the players that have been here before and the players that, maybe haven't and they need to get introduced to this program. So for the returning players, we have Laura Mashulo, Luisa Sidlick, like we've said, setter of the year, Anna Martinovic, Dubravka Krakovic, Maddie Appleton, who is the libero. She's a sophomore this year, Sana Maring, Alishka Ternechkova, and Cheryl Matthews. So these are all players that got to experience that run that they had last season, and I think that will really be an advantage to help the new players as the 8 will come in. They'll be able to really talk to them, tell them how things go in matches like they will play in tonight, and they'll really down the stretch be able to help them prepare for games or matches like Towson and JMU and going into the CAA tournament.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it also they all have that chip on their shoulder. Like, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic that they won the CAA, but they're biting to get back to get back to any NCAA tournament they can against whoever it is. They want to come out there and be like, you know what, we might be the underdogs. We're coming from a mid-major school, and you might be coming from a Big Ten school or anywhere. And they want to come and prove everyone wrong. Like, we can get past the first round, you know? Yeah, give us the toughest competition. We're going to come out there and beat them. And I think, a key to that is something like you don't have the freshmen that were on the team last year are now sophomores. Like you said, Maddie Appleton, as somebody who had a breakout freshman season, but I can really see her sophomore season stepping up even more, maturing even more, because now she's looked to almost as a leader. And you're put in a tough spot being a leader as a sophomore on this team, but you're also being a leader with people like WRHU, Louisa Sidlake, Anna Martinovich. I mean, you have the players that are there, but it's also now it's going to see how these new girls fit in the team, and that's what worries me a little bit. I know the talent's there. I mean, Mansour recruits the best of the best, and you see it, and you see the talent that's on that court. But if you don't have the chemistry and you're not going to, like, if Louisa doesn't know where somebody is, like a right side hitter or somebody, then that's not helpful. The chemistry has to be there, like what she mentioned. It's just a look in the eye. And that's where she's going to be able to know where to go with somebody. So I think that's going to be their biggest competition, I guess, this season. It's not going to be who they play. It's going to be themselves. And if they don't gel correctly as a team, that's going to be their downfall this season.
Yeah, well, talking about these new players, there's two that really stand out in my mind, and that's Athena Dimitriadis and Luz Divina Nunez Sierra. Now, Nunez Sierra is 6'6", and Dimitriadis is 6'5".
Yeah,
that's
insane. Hold on,
insane.
Just for reference, I'm 5'3". These girls are over a foot taller than me. It's insane. I would be nervous going up. I mean, I used to play volleyball. I'd be nervous going up against them in the net, let alone anybody else in the CIA.
Yeah.
I mean, you're coming up, some girl is going to be towering over you. I mean, Joe Matthews is the shortest on this team at 5'3". So, put that height difference right there, and that's the best thing. I think that they brought in some of the best players that you could, and, can't wait to see what Athena and Luz bring to this team.
And comparing those two to other teams in the CAA, JMU, their tallest player is 6'4". Towson, their tallest player is 6'2". So this front three at the net is going to be so hard to get past. And defensively, this team could be one to not allow very many points with that front. Those two on the front lines.
Yeah, and I think also having Luz and Athena as your middle blockers right there is going to be something that's important. Because anybody on the other team that's going up for that hit, you're going to have these girls towering right in front of you. So now that your space is limited of where you can hit the ball, so that's also a positive for the Pride right there. I mean, you also have Maddie Appleton will be back there receiving the ball and giving it right over to Sidlick. So I think that could be a big positive for these girls. But you also have several players who are over 6 foot.
Right.
Anybody in that front line above the 10-foot line is over 6 foot. It's scary going up against, and that's their secret weapon until CAA teams know how to play against them. And the problem is with volleyball, you have to play every team twice, one at home and one on the road.
Yeah.
So once they play Hofstra once, they're gonna know next time we're gonna face Hofstra, like, all right, we have to figure out how to hit in the pockets and not really have these two girls who are really tall up front block our ball.
Yeah, and it's going to be near impossible to get the ball across the net with those two at the front lines. But some of the other new players that we're going to be seeing this year, Madeline Matheny, Juliana Vaz, Sariana Anglero, Sarah Pierre, Zaire Abdul Rahim, and Simgia Korkmaz. So it's going to be interesting to see as the season goes on, as I've said already, how these players will fit into the lineup and when they will be put in. It's going to be interesting to see. Maybe some of these players will be on the court tonight. Maybe they won't be at the start of CAA play. Maybe somebody's going to just come out of nowhere and surprise us. And another interesting thing that we haven't really talked about yet, Sana Maring is returning this year, but she was out all of last year. So it's also going to be interesting to see what she's going to be able to bring to the table this season.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that I think we're going to see tonight when they host, and they play, they play the host Penn State, which, we're waiting for that game to start momentarily as we both pull up the stats on our computer. But Hofstra opening up against Penn State is definitely very nerve-wracking. I mean, you could have gotten up against Wichita or Holy Cross, but I think it's something that's going to be good for Hofstra. Penn State hasn't had a match yet. Hofstra hasn't had a match yet, but Hofstra's 0-7 all time against Penn State. So that's something that they have to keep out of the back of their mind going into this, and they have to go in and have fun. Obviously, be mad if you make big mistakes, but shake off those little mistakes. It's just the rust. You haven't played the 6 girls that come out on the court have not played together. It doesn't matter even if it's the 3 new girls and 3 old returning players. It doesn't matter. They've never played together. Chemistry's not there.
Yeah.
That's what this tournament is, for them to build the chemistry, to see how they can go against this tough competition. And then when they come back here to the physical education building, they can go out there like, okay, this and this we did wrong. This is how we're going to work on it and fix it. So when they play at the Hofstra Invitational, they know how to fix it.
Right. And then, looking at the CAA schedule, once that comes into play, the first 3 matches are on the road. Now, in my opinion, I think that helps the team because as you've said earlier in the broadcast, being on the road, going to these places, it helps the team bond. And I really think that being on the road for the first 3 matches is going to be huge for them, especially if they can get wins out of those matches. Coming home where they've historically played well,
Right.
I think that would just give them a boost of confidence.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you. I think that it was almost the CAA, or however the schedule was designed for them to be on the road for the first 3 matches, is very positive because of the fact that the chemistry is going to get built. They're going to also see, and then they come home, and they're going to have a couple matches at home where they can then also be on that home court and be able to get that feel of, okay, we have our home friends cheering for us. A lot of us from the sports department will go and watch. You have the pep band, you have the family, so it's that overall feeling of everyone's going to be there together. And then that's really how the season's going to pick up, and it's going to be beneficial for this team.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And here inside the locker room, 88.7 FM WRHU. We'll take a quick break, throw to a sports break with Lou Acumano. And when we come back, we will be talking, we'll have a volleyball package for you, so stay tuned.
Thanks, guys. The Hofstra Pride Field Hockey team fell in their season opener earlier today against Wagner. Final score 3-0. The Pride look to get their first victory on the season in their matchup against St. Joe's this Sunday at 2 p.m. Over to the soccer field for the Pride, the women's soccer team went to Brown University to try to improve the record to 2-1 on the season. The score is currently tied at 0 in the first half. From the fields to the court of the Pride, Hofstra Volleyball's match against Penn State is underway as no one has scored in the match. In the MLB, the Chicago Cubs took down the Milwaukee Brewers 7-1. Nicholas Castellanos clobbered this ball for his second home run of the game to give the Cubbies a 5-0 lead.
Castellanos drives one in the air, deep left center. Get out the tape measure, long gone. Castellanos' second home run of the day. Cubs lead 5-0.
Sound courtesy of MLB. The New York Mets look to acquire that wild card spot, but are on a losing streak as of late. They are on the road tonight as they battle the Phillies. Manager of the Mets, Mickey Callaway, had this to say about this losing streak and tonight's matchup.
You have to move on. I know we say this every time we lose. You do. You really do. You have to move on, regroup. We got to go into Philly and take care of business.
Sound courtesy of the MLB. With your fall sports preview show update, I'm Lou Acumano. Now, let's get back to our hosts, Julia Presti and Grant Francis.
And welcome back here inside the Fall Sports Preview Show. I'm Julia Presti alongside Grant Francis, and we just talked about last season, previewed this season to come, had an interview with head coach Emily Mansour. And before we go to our volleyball package, just a quick update, the Pride are tied with Penn State 2-2 in the first set, so that's great to see that Pride are on the board right there. But now let's go over to our package created by Lyanne Souza, Mike Amoruso, and Asha Lewis Redway as they talk about the Pride looking to get back to the NCAA tournament.
Bump set to Marchila. It's off the block. It falls to the floor, and that's the championship. The Hofstra Pride have really lived up to their name and took pride to take this tournament.
With the heart, fight, and pride, the 2018 Hofstra volleyball team raised their 4th CAA title and took a trip to their 9th NCAA appearance. With a storybook ending to last season, the Pride roared their way to their 2019 campaign, led by...
Hey, this is Laura Mashula, house side hitter for your Hofstra Pride volleyball team.
Now over for Shalin, and now it's sent over Perez for Mashulo, and that's just inside for a point for Hofstra. Nice kill there by Laura Mashulo.
Hey, this is Louisa Sidlick, setter for your Hofstra Pride volleyball team.
Appleton, who has to get down very low. The set from Sidlick finds Mashulo, who's there on the attack and gets the kill.
Louisa Sidlick with the light tap over the nets. She finds contact with an open space given by Charleston's defense.
Leading the Pride offensively, senior Laura Masciullo carried a team-high 466 kills, earning the Italian native to be selected as the 2019 preseason CAA Player of the Year.
A very nice thing, I was recognized during the tournament to be the CAA best player, and definitely another big motivation to step into the court since our first game and prove it that we can definitely do well with this team.
Defensively, the reigning CAA Setter of the Year, Louisa Sitlik, posted 1,468 assists and ranked second in digs for the Pride. The German native hopes to stay red hot in her senior year.
Yeah, I think our schedule this year is literally planned on how our season is going to be, so I'm very excited to start.
They believe their chemistry on the volleyball floor ultimately leads to the team's success.
And definitely the chemistry, it's there. 4 years, it's a long time, and I think it's very helpful, in particular on the court, to have a good connection, like outside hitter and setter, and at the same time other people will follow up with the same chemistry.
Yeah, I definitely think throughout the 4 years we have not been only teammates, but we have become very close friends, and that's definitely helping us on the team. Sometimes only a look is enough to know exactly how the other person feels and what they need on the court, so I think that also is very beneficial for the team because we literally understand each other blind.
With their final season officially underway, the international duo carry only one goal in mind.
We have to defend our title, and the expectations on us are very high this year, but that's a responsibility of which we are proud of, and definitely a big motivation to work very hard through the whole season.
Yeah, I think we're very excited. We have a new team, and every year that's a new challenge, but it's a challenge we are really excited about, and we're really looking forward to defend our title this year.
Reporting for WRHU Sports, I'm Aisha Lewis-Redway.
And again, a special thanks to Aisha Lewis-Redway, Lyanne Souza, and Mike Amoruso for putting together that incredible package. And before we sat down with head coach Emily Mansour, and now we got this chance to sit down with Laura Masciullo and Louisa Sidlik. So now, girls, how does it feel to be CAA champions heading into this season?
I think it's a very good motivation, definitely a responsibility because we have to defend our title, and the expectations on us are very high this year, but that's a responsibility of which we are proud of, and definitely a big motivation to work very hard through the whole season.
Yeah, I think we're very excited. We have a new team, and every year that's a new challenge, but it's a challenge we are really excited about, and we're really looking forward to defend our title this year.
So last year was a big year for both of you. Now, how important is it to be recognized by the entire CAA?
I think it was great, and it's always great to get recognized with an award because all your hard work pays off. At the end of the day, I was even more proud of the team, though, that we were able to get the CAA champion title.
Yeah, it was a very nice thing. I was recognized during the tournament to be the CAA best player during the tournament, and definitely another big motivation to step into the court since our first game and prove it that we can definitely do well with this team and perform our best in order to carry all the new players.
Now, you guys have been playing together since freshman year. How does it feel that your chemistry has grown over these past 3 years, now going into your senior year?
We have been through this together since the beginning. She's my roommate, actually, so literally step by step every day, and definitely the chemistry, it's there. 4 years, it's a long time, and I think it's very helpful, in particular on the court, to have a good connection, outside hitter and setter, and at the same time other people will follow up with the same chemistry. And right now I think we are on our way to find that team chemistry that we need in order to play our best, because individually wise and potentially wise we are right there, but we definitely have to work together in order to achieve our goals.
Yeah, I definitely think throughout the 4 years we have not been only teammates, but we have become very close friends, and that's definitely helping us on the team. Sometimes only a look is enough to know exactly how the other person feels and what they need on the court. So I think that also is very beneficial for the team because we literally understand each other blind.
You guys have obviously seen seniors leave every year during your first 3 seasons, but what does it feel like to actually be the seniors now?
Right, I think it is a responsibility, but it's something that, like, at least I'm pretty sure for Luisa too, like, we're glad to have this role this year and leading the team. We know what is expected from us. We know what are the standards of our program. So it's definitely a pleasure to just, like, convey this message to everybody else and make sure that everybody's on the same page on our way to do very well this year.
Yeah, I think being a senior gives you a lot more responsibility, especially taking the freshmen and leading by example. So I'm very excited for our last year.
I know you guys had several new faces in the locker room, adding 8 new players. Is there anyone in particular that we should watch out for this season?
Well, we're not gonna reveal our secrets here, but yeah, we definitely have players that are competing with the returners. We have players that have a lot of potential and probably could be there, maybe not since the beginning, but like through the season, definitely. And we're very excited to see what are those new people bringing into our program and how much and in how long they can actually grow and become part of these fully and give their best on the court and off the court.
So how do you guys feel about being picked second in the CAA in the preseason polls?
We think that it's an opportunity for us to show that we deserve to be picked first. And I think it's a even bigger motivation now to show everyone that we can do it. So obviously we're a little bit upset about it, but I think we should more see that as a motivation to prove them wrong.
And now you guys have a tough non-conference schedule opening up against Penn State. How will this help you prepare for the CAA play when it begins in a few weeks?
I mean, honestly, it's for sure a very important start this year, but this is preparing us not just for CAA but also for what's coming after. Our goals this year are pretty high, and the expectations are very high. So it's not just the goal of conference, but also what's coming after. And of course, as we definitely saw last year, whatever comes after CAA, it's harder and it's very competitive. And that's why our preseason this year has been scheduled in a very tough way, but also in a way that's smart and prepare us to whatever will come after that.
Yeah, I think our schedule this year is literally planned on how our season is going to be. So I'm very excited to start.
So how excited are you to be going up against number 8 Penn State to kick off the year at the Penn State Classic?
Well, that's definitely exciting. We finished our year last year at Nebraska. That's house available, and we're starting again in another big house. So it's exciting. It's a new start and big motivation, and definitely a place where we can prove and most important evaluate where we are right now at the beginning and what we have to work on and how far this is gonna take us.
You guys both had record seasons last year. What is your main focus that you guys wanted to improve on during this off season?
I mean, during the summer, it's always a little bit difficult. We are all at home. We have to practice by ourselves. But I think before leaving, every one of us had a specific focus on what they had to work on. And since we were back 4 weeks earlier than most of the teams in our conference, we had the chance to work closely together and get all freshmen on the same page already. So I think that's something that really benefit our team.
Yes, I think over the summer, everybody worked individually. During the spring, at least for the returners, we really worked hard on whatever we were lacking over the fall. So hopefully, coming back now, we're gonna be even better. And yes, during the summer, we did a very good job as a girls to plan this out and be able to still see each other before actually meeting with the coaches. So that was hopefully something that's gonna pay off later on.
So your families are going to be in the crowd for senior night, and they'll be able to watch you in person for the first time in college. So how excited are you for that night and being able to play in front of your families?
That's very, very excited because I don't think my parents saw me actually playing since the past like 3-4 years. And of course they follow every game like on streaming from home, but like having them right there close to me, it's gonna be very, very exciting. And also like our parents never met each other, so I don't know how the communication is gonna go between Italian and German, but it's gonna be very nice and exciting for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely super excited. I think coming here as an international, it's a dream that your parents come and support you at senior night, you walk with them, and it's just always great to have someone in the crowd who cheers for you.
And then what does it mean for you guys to be able to defend your CAA title on home court come November during the CAA tournament? And how important will that home court advantage be for the entire team?
It's definitely going to be very important. I'm really looking forward to see how many people we're going to get in the gym and how many people we're going to have there to support us and to defend our title.
Yeah, we're also very, very lucky because I think we're one of the few teams in the U.S. that actually have their own like volleyball court. So it's something that we are very proud of, and also we have a staff that support us, and behind every event there's an amazing staff that's really like working hard to make anything possible for us.
You guys played with Anishka Perez last season, and now she is one of your coaches. So how has that transition been?
It has been great so far. She helped us a lot. Obviously, knowing her very well helps to transition a little bit easier, but it's amazing. She knows our system, so she knows exactly what we are going through, so we can really talk to her whenever, and I think it's great to have her. Great addition.
And now we're going to do everyone's favorite part of preview show interviews, the rapid fire. So the first thing that comes to mind, so who was the funniest on the team?
Athena.
Yeah.
Who hits the hardest on the team?
Laura.
Here I am.
All right, who is most likely to forget something when going on a road trip?
Sana.
Sana's list, Ariana.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
Crepe with Nutella, I guess.
All right.
Favorite song to listen to before a match?
Don't have a favorite song, but something that's gonna, like, pop,
Upbeat.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
First celebrity crush?
Whoa. Celebrity, volleyball-wise, that was Francesca Piccinini for me. Huge Italian player. Always looked up to her.
Didn't really have anyone.
Boring.
And now the way that we end every interview, Hasha wins the CIA
If we put some teamwork in there, we find our chemistry, we work out every single day, and most important, we keep believing that we will win the CAA.
Yeah, if we work harder than everyone else and believe in what we can do at the end of the day.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A huge thank you again to Laura Maschillo and Luisa Sidlick for joining us the other day for that interview. And now we're going to bring in our sports director, Lyanne Souza, for Beyond the Pride. Lyanne.
All right, let's do this. So the last time the three of us were together was actually the Nebraska game that we were watching at Hafusa.
That's right.
Yep.
Do you guys remember that? The intensity of that game?
You were screaming a little bit.
I was.
I think I lost my hearing.
To quiet down a bit, but we got our stuff together. So now let's talk about it. One of the most important things going into this season is that what will be their competitor that we should kind of look out for in the CAA. One being Towson, that they've struggled with certainly in the fifth set, and we had even seen that come into the tournament. And when I had gone into practice with Coach Emily Mansour last season when I was the beat reporter, I had said, and she kind of had said, Towson's one of those teams that when it comes down to play in the fifth set, they are very competitive. Okay, and of course, with all Hofstra sports, James Madison is always the one to turn to. Whether it's basketball, volleyball, field hockey, name the sport, James Madison is always a competitor within the CAA. And two players that were also named in the preseason CAA team, two being Sarah Martin, that is also returned, and Michaela White. One thing about those two players is that they're over 6 feet, right? 6 foot, okay? So, but what did we fix this year? Height.
That's
Height
for sure.
is going to be certainly an advantage. And one thing that Coach Emily Mansour had even mentioned in during the interview is that once they step on that floor, it is certainly going to be a presence. They're going to make the floor seem a lot smaller. And of course, having Lada Mashulo, Luisa Sidlik, now even Anna Martinovic, she also got her first start here for Hofstra tonight against Penn State. So that also seems pretty, that's a good look so far for Hofstra. And then something to point out too that I think is interesting when prepping is that James Madison also playing a ranked team tonight against Washington State, ranked 22, and they got swept. Okay.
All right, but that's a little different than playing number 8 Penn State right now.
Right.
Yeah, yes, it's a big competitor, and I'm giving it that, but I think Hofstra has the harder thing to go around with Penn State.
I would also like to see the box score from that, because if it was 3 close sets, then that's a little bit different than if they got blown out.
One set was 25-20.
Okay.
So you saw that they were competitors within that match. But something to also point to is that both head coaches for James Madison and Hofstra, they're both looking for a run in the NCAA tournament. That's why you set ranked teams to put against in your non-conference, because they're both looking for the CAA tournament come November, but they're looking further ahead into early December. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like I kind of said, I mean, I definitely think that kind of building off of what Grant, like, if they're very close sets, that makes me nervous for this upcoming season, because if you're going up, no matter where you're ranked, if you're ranked, you're still a good opponent. So now you have JMU going up against, Washington State, and it's very close. So that's nerve-wracking for Hofstra, but I think it's also something that they have to keep out of their mind when they're going to go play them on the road and here at Hofstra. So it's nerve-wracking, but I think Hofstra, as time progresses, it'll be better for them.
Definitely. Grant, your thoughts?
Well, Emily Mansour said it too. The CAA is so unpredictable this year with how many players that have gone and left, and so really all we have for information to look at is things like height. And when it comes down to it, obviously the Pride have Dimitriadis, who's 6'5".
And also to note, she started today, which is a very good look in the mid-block, because she's possibly now replacing Doris Begoya, who Grant and I love to watch. But getting that feist back in that height, and then also who's going to replace Michaela Rookley? That's also important too, that we've seen another freshman also step into that role.
Well, not to mention 6'6" Nunez Sierra too. Yeah. So you look at a team like Towson, who their tallest player is 6'2".
Right.
So I think that's going to be a challenge for them going up against a team like Hofstra, who has really tall players like that, whereas they really don't.
All right, so I have a question to pose to you, volleyball fanatic over
Tell
here.
Me, what's
so
going
now
on?
JMU, we know, is a very hard competition.
Correct.
But who's harder, JMU or Towson? Because Towson is more difficult to Hofstra here at home in a 5th set.
So if I'm head coach Emily Mansour,
Which you would love to be.
Which I would love to be, we both speak Portuguese, which is incredible. Is mentally a mental game that is harder is Towson. Reason why I say that, you take a look at service errors, you take a look at timing as to when I should jump and block. Things like that are super important, but also, it's the mental sport. Yeah. It's much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport when you're playing Towson. But if you look at it black and white, James Madison is the one that you're scared of the most on paper.
See, I would kind of agree, but I still think James Madison's scary, but I would still give, it seems like history repeats itself. Towson's that harder team for them.
Always.
But, we'll have to see when the season comes. Like Grant said, we don't know what the CAA holds. Nobody really does. A lot of loss went on, so it's going to be something we're going to see how head coach Emily Mansour and these girls really build off of today's matchup against Penn State.
So let's also look very quickly. I know we got to wrap up. James Madison, who they're playing tonight. They played earlier today against Washington State. Tonight they're playing against Stony Brook.
Right.
And then Grant and
That's
I will
true.
be on the call against Hofstra will play Stony Brook on Tuesday.
I thought you were going to say you were going to play on Tuesday.
Emily, if you're ready, I got it.
She's calling you out, Coach.
I got it. No, but it's going to be a fun time. Stony Brook is always a great matchup. So thanks, guys, for joining me.
Thanks for joining us, Lyanne.
Thanks, Lyanne. That was Beyond the Pride with Lyanne Souza. And that will do it for the volleyball hour of tonight's show. Coming up next will be Jesse Lindell and Kyle Byrne talking field hockey. A big thank you to everyone who contributed to this hour, and a special thanks to our engineer, Johnny Rupp. And make sure to follow along on Hofstra University's Instagram page for more coverage of tonight's broadcast. For Julia Presti, I'm Grant Francis. Stay tuned here on 88.7 FM WRHU or on Facebook Live, as we're just getting started here on the 2019 Fall Sports Preview Show.
Welcome into the Field Hockey Hour, the fall sports preview show right here on 88.7 FM WRHU. Also streaming on Facebook Live at WRHU Sports. Follow us on the Hofstra Instagram at the Hofstra. Also, while you're at, give us a follow on WRHU TLR and Instagram and Twitter. I'm Kyle Byrne. Alongside me is the one and only Jesse Lindell, here to go break down the whole CAA and the field hockey team this upcoming season. Jesse, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. This should be very exciting. There was just a game today, which we'll touch base on in a little bit. But yeah, I'm very excited. This is a young team that could be primed for a breakout season and should be very exciting.
Yeah, no doubt. You called the game today against Wagner. Yeah, so that was a very exciting game. They got a new head coach. This is a very young team, as we could say so. Definitely improvements to move forward, and I can't say enough how exciting this is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very exciting time for a Hofstra Pride field hockey program. They did have a game today, like I said, which we will mention in just a little bit. But before we go into this season, we're going to recap last season briefly. So last year, they almost made the playoffs. They had a big 1-0 win against James Madison. But then things kind of fell apart a little bit for them because they lost 5-1 against Drexel and then 6-0 against Delaware. They finished 2-4 in CAA play and missed the CAA tournament. They went 5-13 overall. And I think the biggest reason why was because of the the distorted balance of scoring. They were outscored 63-27. Their offense just wasn't able to finish those plays, get things going. And on defense, they were able to play good defense for the most part, but a lot of the time they would have the ball in the opponent's offensive zone. They couldn't clear it, and that's just not a good recipe for success, is having the ball too much in your own end when you're trying to get it down the field.
No doubt. And their defense did play exceptionally well last year. It wasn't awful, but it was just the offense could not get it going.
Yeah.
And what they've talked about this year, they've tried to go for and try and get the offense going. So then the defense can rely and be like, oh, okay, we've got the points, we can rally around that. But yeah, that last season they also were outshot 350-167. But as a collective unit, it was a rebuilding year, and now they're moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're also outshot, which just goes to show that they didn't really have the ball as much as they would like. Didn't have like those open looks either. They didn't really have a lot of players making good enough cuts to get the ball and then to take a shot. But that could all change this year because there are some playmakers that can step up this year that already did step up last year. And one of the players that I would like to highlight is Cammy Larson. Cammy
How
Larson.
Could you not?
Yeah.
You can't go and talk about this team without mentioning Cammy Larson.
Absolutely.
Last year.
Second team, all CAA, led the team with 7 goals, and she was a pretty good playmaker for the Pride. Did not score today as they lost 3-0, but last year, freshman, coming into collegiate level field hockey, and she was somebody who was able to make a huge impact right away. She's somebody that stepped up her game immediately, and it gets everyone excited for Hofstra field hockey for the next 3 years. She was a freshman. She led the team in goals. And now you have her for 3 more years. She could probably do a lot of damage.
Yeah. And everyone talks about the 7 goals that we like. Everyone likes to go on with that. But the 19 points, that just shows you how much of a team player she is.
Yeah.
And she also made all-team rookie last year for the CAA. And this year she was named to the CAA all-rookie team again. The CAA first team preseason. So she's a very exciting player, something to watch very much for in the future with the Hofstra Pride field hockey team.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just Cammy Larson. You look at other players from this team. They did have a couple of key losses. Some players graduated, of course, Madison Sauve and Madison Reed. Yeah. But there are still some great players, even though there aren't some players that didn't come back and some players that graduated. There still are some really good playmakers on both sides of the ball. Frankie O'Brien, who led the team last year in defensive saves, she's kind of the anchor of this defense. She's returning. And then, of course, you have midfielder Madison Warfel, a senior, so she's a leader. She's been there before. You have Juna Slort on defense. So there are a lot of other great players that we mentioned amongst others that are coming back to help this team maybe improve on where they were last year.
Yeah, and one exciting thing during the offseason, I would say, Juna Slort and Cammy Larson were both part of the Dutch team that won the 2019 European games over there. So it's very exciting to see these players, take their talents from Hofstra and go out into the world and show how good they are and how good Hofstra Pride field hockey can be.
Yeah, exactly. You like to see them take their talents the other way. They really did a great job overall, and I'm excited to see what they can do this year. Last year, I understand it was a rough year. Look, 5-13, 2-4 in conference play, but they were able to clinch a playoff spot in the second to last game of the season last year. So they were that close, although they got outscored by a lot, although that their opponents took a lot more shots than they did. They're able to, if they just could fix one or two little things here and there, they could really make a difference and surprise people, I think.
And you're listening to the Fall Sports Preview Show right here on 88.7 FM WRHU. I am Kyle Byrne, alongside me Jesse Lindell, as we were breaking down everything of the field hockey team just last year. But yeah, Jesse, this was a very interesting team to say the least last year. You had breakout players like Cami Larson, who you want to see. This is a young team as well. You could see the growth with last year, and then you could definitely see it from this year to last year so far through one game.
Yeah, you absolutely could. They didn't score today. They lost 3-0, but here's what I really liked is that they had the ball in the attacking zone a lot. They weren't pressed so much on defense today. The one thing that I think they fell short is sometimes just didn't make the right passes. They were able to move the ball around very well, and there was some players that would make good cuts, get good looks to, maybe have a good shot and clear path to the goal. But there was either somebody that had a better look towards the goal and a better clear path, or it was something where the pass either too early or too late is a timing thing, and the ball would just go out of bounds. So they're right there. I mean, it's easy to look and be like, oh, 3-0, their offense did nothing. But no, they're right there. They just have to work out a few kinks, and then they could really play very well when the season progresses. All right, so that's going to wrap up our recap of last season. Coming up, new head coach of the Hofstra Pride field hockey team, Courtney Vino, had time to sit down with us. We're going to talk to her about last season, what she wants to do this season. But first, before we speak to her, we have a sports update with Pat Foster.
Well, guys, let's kick things off with the team in discussion. The Hofstra Pride field hockey team dropped their season opener to Wagner by a score of 0-3 despite outshooting the Seahawks 14-11. Wagner took an early lead with a goal in the first on their only shot of the quarter. The Pride defense would allow goals again in the third and the fourth quarters. The Pride are back in action this Sunday, September 1st at 2 p.m. as they take on St. Joseph's right here at Hofstra University. The Hofstra Pride women's soccer team are on the road and look for a win tonight as they take on Brown and are now in the 51st minute of play out in Providence, Rhode Island. First touch was at 7 p.m. and Brown leads 1-0 thanks to a goal from Abby Carcio in the 44th minute. Hofstra looks to bounce back after a tough 0-6 loss they took at the hands of Penn State last Sunday. Out to the Keystone State as the Pride volleyball team has also begun their season tonight against the Nittany Lions of Penn State at 7:30 p.m. Penn State leads the Pride 1-0 and lead the second set 11-8. The Nittany Lions come into tonight's matchup ranked 8th in the nation and look to protect home court against the Pride. To the big leagues as the New York Mets dropped their 5th straight last night to the Chicago Cubs, who have moved their win streak to 4 games. The Mets took a 1-0 lead in the first thanks to a 432-foot blast by J.D. Davis. The Cubs would tie things up in the first with a solo shot from Victor Caratini. Caratini's impact wouldn't end there as he would take the reigning NL Cy Young winner Jacob deGrom deep yet again in the 7th. Sound courtesy of the MLB. The Metropolitans look to bounce back tonight against Philadelphia. With your TLR Sports Update, I'm Patrick Foster, and let's head back inside the locker room with your hosts Jesse Lindell and Kyle Byrne.
Hey, this is Cami Larsson. I'm a midfielder for your Hofstra Pride field hockey team, and you're listening to the Fall Sports Preview Show only on 88.7 FM WRHU.
Welcome back into the Fall Sports Preview Show right here on 88.7 FM WRHU as we're breaking down the field hockey team of Hofstra. And now we're going to bring on the head coach of the Hofstra Pride, Courtney Vito.
All right, so, Coach, first question. What defensive plays or what defensive changes do you want to help this team from last season to this year?
Sure. We've really been focusing on making sure that we're on both sides of the ball, very organized and structured, and able to handle really anything that's coming at us. Defensively, we've been working on understanding our situations, whether it's numbers up, numbers down, and really trying to communicate it out as a unit. Offensively, we're really just trying to connect with each other and make the game of field hockey a really simple one. Finding the easy pass, doing the easy pass, finding space, creating space, and it's something that's absolutely been a focus of ours throughout our preseason.
After being an associate head coach for the past 2 years, what is it like to get your first head coaching job with Hofstra?
Oh, everything. The minute I started coaching, I was fresh out of college, and my head coach, Josette at the time, a huge mentor of mine, was like, "Hey, Court, maybe you should try coaching. You're a good teacher, and what do you think?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And I think after my first practice, I said to myself, absolutely want to be a Division I head coach, and weirdly set a standard. I'm very goal-oriented and standard-oriented, so set a standard of we're going to do that before 30. And so I squeezed in by a couple of months. Very, very appreciative that Hofstra has given me this opportunity to start my coaching career, and with a very motivated group, it's been a fun couple of months.
With you previously being an associate coach for this team before, what's it like to have some of that chemistry with these girls?
Yeah, to be honest, it's absolutely something I've underestimated. Never once have I had to be like, "What's your name? What position do you play?" Or, "Oh, you can push this kid. This kid we need to warm up to." I'll say that every single player was bought in by the time that I said, "Yes, I accept this job," and it was hit the ground running from practice 1 and culture session 1, and it progressed faster than I anticipated, with already having that trust in those relationships.
Now, who's leading the goalie battle as of right now? Or are you thinking about doing a 2-goalie system throughout the season?
Yeah, we're unsure. We still have a week and a half of preseason. The conversation every day is who's putting in the effort and the time, and we're trying to be more statistics based, so we're really keeping track of goals against throughout every scrimmage opportunity. We're keeping track of goals for and who's putting the ball in the back of the net. So it's really, as much as they're battling every day for spots and time on the field, and it's something that I'm going to give them that time to get all the opportunities. And tomorrow's our first scrimmage against Holy Cross, and they're going to be every person is going to get an opportunity to get on the field and show me what they have.
Coach, what are your short-term goals to help this team out in the long run?
Yeah, right off the bat, my first goal for this program was to really install a culture of winning and trust and putting the work in. And so we live by 3 core values. We live by trust, growth, and relentless. And it's on or off the field. How are we presenting ourselves? What are we doing to be the program we want to be? It's been something it's in a discussion every day at practice.
Now, what strides do you want to make for this team from last year to this year?
Yeah, absolutely getting on the winning side of things. I think we're just trying to do little changes every day that can affect our bigger picture, and that's installing an attacking philosophy and taking advantage of all of our attacking opportunities. We're really taking notice of what are we doing with our circle entries. And on the defensive side, doing the exact opposite, denying the circle as much as possible, trying to limit the other team's possibilities to get inside that scoring zone, and how are we handling this. The other is I'm really trying to push the speed of the game with our group at practice, on whatever scrimmage situation on the attack side of the ball, defense side of the ball, is we're trying to play a fast transitional game of field hockey, and it's all started within our practice design and making sure that our practice is a moving practice.
Here in the Field Hockey Hour of the Fall Sports Preview Show, right here on 88.7 FM WRHU, we're speaking to head coach Courtney Vino. Coach, who do you think is going to be the toughest CAA team to face?
You know, I feel like we've got a conference that every day anybody can do something special. We've, Delaware has got a really good thing going on right now and a lot of success every year. William and Mary took a jump by winning the conference last year and, kind of surprised some people. And we've really got quite a few teams that are competing at a nationally competitive level, and they're in the top 20 and handling that top level of competition. And so that's where we're striving to be, is to push into that top 20 and to really make a more consistent name for ourselves, no matter who we're playing.
Now, what are you looking to get out of your non-conference matchups this season?
Yeah, non-conference schedule, and this has been something already stated within our team, is we're looking to learn how to win and learning how to create on attack and create, as many numbers up possibilities around the goal as possible. And I think if we can just gain some confidence in learning how to win, I'm a firm believer that it can carry over for some long-term success.
Coach, who or what has really changed from last year to this year in practice?
Oh, gosh, this is a silly answer, but every single person has really increased their practice ability and their urgency, their attention to detail at practice. I know that I'm someone that's very picky, and with that being said, I think that the players are pushing their level of detail as well. Really, everybody has made an increase in commitment and practice demands and making the jump, and it's been an easy push. It's been an easy go for me when you have a motivated team.
How's this new freshman class looking so far?
Yeah, the freshman class is very strong. I'm very happy with the level of athleticism they bring to our team. They bring a great deal of speed. I think we have some natural competitors in that group, and it's funny, the second day of preseason, I kind of thought to myself, geez, this doesn't feel like a second day of preseason. Like, the team just absorbed them. They had the scared look on their face for about, 2 hours, and after that, they've kind of just jumped in. So they bring a great level of knowledge of the game, and a great level of athleticism that I think some of them will really benefit us immediately.
Now, which freshman has been the most impressive in practice so far?
Yes, Sam Sparrow is very consistent, day in and day out level of an athlete. She's got a high level of turf skill. She's a very low player. She knows how to tackle, and she tackles at a very competitive level. She's strong. She's fit. She's someone that has really, I wouldn't say surprised me. I expected this of her, that's for sure. But I will say she's done a great job this preseason.
All right, so now we're going to get into the rapid fire like we did before.
Let's do it.
All right, so favorite athlete?
Favorite athlete, Julian Edelman.
Gatorade or Powerade?
Ooh. What's our sponsor? Powerade.
There's one right answer.
Yeah, sure.
Moe's or Chipotle?
Chipotle.
Beach or pool?
Ooh, combo. Kind of like a half a day girl. One at each.
Favorite place to travel?
Since moving away from home, I'll have to say traveling back to Maine. Yep.
Favorite things to watch on Netflix?
Oh man, I'm a true crime fan right here. Anything true crime.
All right, Coach, I want you to finish the sentence for me. Hofstra wins the CAA
if we are one team that really pushes together.
Once again, that was the head coach of the Hofstra Pride field hockey team, head coach Courtney Vino. Coach, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so great interview.
Great, yeah.
And coming up later, we have an interview with some of the players as well, Cammie Larson and Frankie O'Brien. But first, we're going to preview what to expect this season. Of course, we asked in the interview the goalie battle.
Mm-hmm.
Today, Cecilia DeSimone was in net the entire game. Merline Van der Vecht was not in. She did not play at all today against Wagner. And so you're thinking maybe she might be getting a little bit more reps. So Merline is a freshman. Cecilia. Excuse me, is a junior. And Cecilia has been here before, but her freshman year, a .522 save percentage, and did not record a save last year. Wasn't really one of those everyday players. Didn't really get to see any big action her freshman or sophomore year. So this could be a really big year for her. But then, of course, there's Merline, a freshman coming in, trying to be the goalkeeper for the next 4 years, trying to be the face of this team for the next 4 years in net. So it should be very interesting to see what the coach goes with, or possibly a two-goalie combination. I mean, that's also a possibility.
It's not a bad idea, because then the opponents don't know who they're going to be facing. It's kind of a brilliant. You see it sometimes in other sports like that, where they run with a two goalie system. But like, it's very interesting, because then opponents won't know who they're going to have to face. They won't have to know attack them the day before. They'll have to learn both sides of the film, and then they could just throw an oddball out there. So whoever they want to go out with.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But also, it's worked for other Hofstra Pride teams in the past before. And so you're thinking, I know it's a different sport, but maybe you're thinking, well, do we adopt that philosophy or not? But speaking of philosophy, what I like about Coach Vino, this is her first year as the head coach. What I like about her is that she's been here before. She's been an associate. Huge. Yeah, exactly. She's been an associate coach before before this year, and so she's not really coming in trying to get to know a lot of new faces, which is something that she mentioned too. She's not trying to know like a whole bunch of new names, a whole bunch of new players.
She knows all their strengths, their weaknesses. It's huge because first day of practice, it's the same old coach. They know him. They have a good relationship with her already, so it looks very flawless so far.
Yeah, it's not, oh, what do you like? What do you don't like? What's your favorite play? What's your least favorite? Yeah, exactly.
It's not that awkwardness and stuff like that. They all know Coach. She's great. She loves them. You can see it in what we just saw in the interview.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that I really think could help because she was really focused on things with offense and defense. With offense, she mentioned today and before that she wanted to focus on finishing plays. Like we mentioned earlier in today's game, they didn't really have when they were in the offensive zone, even though they controlled the ball more, even though they had more shots and more shots on goal, they didn't capitalize on all the opportunities that they had. And it's probably because, the pass was a little too early or too late, or they just didn't pass to the right person. There was a better option available, a better path to the net. And she said she wants to work on finishing those plays on the defensive side of the ball, just, limiting the time and limiting, I guess, the amount of open defenders that there are. And Hofstra played really well on defense. They really did. They controlled
didn't play bad today.
A lot of the field, because Wagner didn't really have the ball that much. And then when they did, they were able to contain them for the most part. They played pretty well. A couple of slip-ups, of course. That's why
Frankie O'Brien, you could see it really was in command back there when you're watching the game. We were both in attendance of the game, and you could really see Frankie was really – you could see like a field general out there, and she was commanding where everyone would go and stuff like that. And just a couple slip-ups that you could make in practice that will really go far going forward.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that they're right there. Like
it's there.
Yeah, like
you can see the potential. Like we've said, this is a young team.
Yeah.
Most of this team. There's only 3 seniors this year.
Yeah.
It's like most of them are freshmen or sophomores.
Yeah, there's 3 seniors. There's Alyssa Kohler.
Madison Georgina?
Not her. No, it's Madison Warfel.
There's a lot of Madisons on this team.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of Madisons. Valerie Vogel is a grad student.
Yeah.
There's Dominique Luxardo, who's a senior. So, there's not a lot of upperclassmen. There's a lot of opportunity for some of these freshmen and even some sophomores and possibly some juniors to really take advantage. And, back to what we were saying about, the future, it's easy to look at the team. Okay, they lost 3-0, but they didn't get, destroyed. They didn't get
they were there.
like hammered or anything like that. No.
They beat Wagner with shots on goal. They had 5 shots on goal today. So they're there. It's just getting it in the back of the net there.
Yeah. The one thing I will say though is they have to use these 2 days because the next game is against St. Joe's, number 17 in the nation. So they have to use these next 2 days to the best of their ability. St. Joseph's, excuse me.
Yeah.
But they have to use these 2 days to the best of their ability. They have to work on everything quickly. They have to kind of study the film of St. Joseph's because Wagner, this is their inaugural season. Like they didn't have any film to study against them, but now they have something to study against St. Joseph's.
It was a wild pitch with Wagner. You couldn't really study them. It was rough going in. It was coach's first game as head coach for Courtney. So, it was a growing process for everyone.
Yeah.
So, it was exciting. They should be back against St. Joseph's University.
Yeah, it's just that the one thing is, though, like, it doesn't get easier for them because they got St. Joseph's, then they go to Monmouth, and they have all these different opponents, like Sacred Heart, Brown, Yale, and then CAA play is right around the corner.
It's there.
Yeah, it starts on October 4th, I believe, is their first CAA game, and that's against Drexel.
And I'd say the big thing for this team this year is a lot of their games are home.
Yeah,
that's huge.
That's a big thing, too.
That's huge to have home field. To no matter where, as a team, to have home field, be right there. You don't have to do as much travel. It's not much of a workload for you. You always have the hometown fans there cheering you on. You have your family. When you're down, you can always be there for you.
Yeah, and they were the Road Warriors last year. I'm looking at the schedule from last year.
They were mostly on the road the whole year.
Monmouth, they were on the road. They're at home against them. This year, Yale, they were at Yale last year. This year, they are home against Yale. So they have a couple of these opponents that they maybe didn't play against too well last year. But now it's switched. Now they have home field. You're right. They have their family there to support them. They have the backup of all the fans. And it's something that we could really see a turnaround from some of these players, I really think. And I really think that some of these results can really change. So that's going to wrap up our preview for the upcoming season. Coming up, we have a package and we have a player interview with Frankie O'Brien and Cammie Larson. So don't go anywhere. There's still a lot of stuff left to cover in the Field Hockey Hour of the Fall Sports Preview Show here on 88.7 FM WRHU. But first, we're going to take another sports update break with Pat Foster.
Thanks, guys. Let's start off once again with the team in discussion. The Hofstra Pride field hockey team dropped their season opener to Wagner by a score of 0-3, despite outshooting the Seahawks 14-11. Wagner took an early lead with a goal in the first on their only shot of the quarter. The Pride defense would allow goals again in the third and the fourth quarters. The Pride are back in action this Sunday, September 1st at 2 p.m. as they take on St. Joseph's right here at Hofstra University. The Hofstra Pride women's soccer team are on the road and look for a win tonight as they take on Brown and are now in the 71st minute of play. Both squads are knotted up at 1 goal apiece. Sabrina Bryan scored the lone goal for the Pride off an assist from Monique Ianella. The goal marks Bryan's inaugural goal of the season. Out to the Keystone State as the Pride volleyball team has also begun their season tonight against the Nittany Lions of Penn State at 7:30 p.m. Penn State leads 2-0 and took the first set 25-13 and the second set 25-19. The Nittany Lions come into this matchup ranked 8th in the nation and look to protect home court against the Pride. To the big leagues as the New York Mets dropped their 5th straight last night to the Chicago Cubs, who have moved their win streak to 4 games. Mets manager Mickey Callaway spoke after the game and gave his thoughts on the Mets' recent slump.
You have to move on. I know we say this every time we lose. You do. You really do. You have to move on, regroup. We got to go into Philly and take care of business.
That sound courtesy of the MLB. The Metropolitans look to bounce back tonight against Philadelphia. The New York Yankees are back in action tonight against the Oakland A's. CC Sabathia opened on the rubber for the Pinstripes as Brett Anderson started for Oaktown. The Bombers lead 2-1 in the 5th. The Yankees look to continue their winning ways and push their current winning streak to 5 games. With your TLR Sports Update, I'm Patrick Foster. Now let's head back inside the locker room with your hosts for the Field Hockey Hour, Jesse Lindell and Kyle Byrne.
Hey, this is Courtney Vino, head coach for your Hofstra Pride field hockey team, and you're listening to the Fall Sports Preview Show only on 88.7 FM WRHU.
Back inside the Field Hockey Hour of the Fall Sports Preview Show right here on 88.7 FM WRHU and also streaming on Facebook Live at WRHU Sports. I am Kyle Byrne. Alongside me is Jesse Lindell. How you doing? And now we have a special package for you that was made by Blake Walden, Dylan Sandus, Johnny Rupp, and Andrew Baccigalippo.
It's a new era for Pride Field Hockey as former associate head coach Courtney Vino makes her head coaching debut.
Hey, this is Courtney Vino, head coach for your Hofstra Pride Field Hockey team.
Coach Vino is experienced and full of energy, ready to lead this program to levels never reached before. This team is full of potential and is poised for success. The Pride returned 7 of 11 players who recorded a point in the 2018 season.
Ball still loose in front, and they score. Madison Warfel makes it 2-0 on a great turnaround shot right in front of the net.
And returned 3 of their top 5 scorers. This is a squad that without a doubt can make a run in the CAA.
Lee Larson driving in, zigzagging her way through, passing it in, shooting and just hitting back net, and then scoring for the Pride. This time it looks like it was Madison Georgiana, but nonetheless the Pride score and cut the lead in half.
Led by sophomore Cammie Larson, the young superstar led the team in scoring as a freshman and will look to repeat her performance this coming season. With that kind of talent on the field, there is no limit on how far this team can go.
Larson throws it on net and she scores! 4 goals for the Pride. Cammie Larson, the leading scorer, joining the party as well.
Shot goes in from the top of the circle, and that was a rocket from Cammie Larson.
Joining Larson up front is Madison Warfel and Madison Georgiana. Both of the veterans are a threat to score anytime they are around the ball.
Vogels drops it to Warfel, and she gets it in. Madison Warfel, her second goal of the game, and the Hofstra Pride have extended their lead. It's 5-0.
On the defensive end, the Pride are equipped with star defenseman Frankie O'Brien.
Larson passes it to O'Brien. O'Brien with the shot, goes in! It went right behind Van Dam, and Frankie O'Brien with the goal, and the Pride cut the lead.
Frankie O'Brien from the dot in the middle of the solid arc, looking to extend Hofstra's lead. Shoots and scores!
Toronto Slord, Valerie Vogels, and breakout candidate Haley Carter will help contribute to the Pride's stout defense. In net, the team will benefit from a pair of goalkeepers willing to put their bodies on the line to stop anything from passing them. The netminders junior Cecilia DeSimone and newcomer Marilyn Van der Vecht will be sure to pose a huge problem for any opposing forwards they face. This is a program destined for big things, and their journey starts now. For WRHU Sports, I'm Andrew Baccigalippo.
And a special thanks once again to Andrew Baccigalippo, Blake Waldron, Johnny Rupp, and Dylan Sandus for working on that package. But now we had the chance to speak to Frankie O'Brien and Cammie Larson, 2 players on the Hofstra Pride field hockey team. So let's just get right into it. So they were both some of the younger players last year. Cammie, you were a freshman, and Frankie, you were a sophomore. How did it feel to have such a big role as some of the younger members of the team?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not so much like a bigger role or a smaller role, or it's like getting into it. I guess it's just how much as a team you prepare for from preseason to your fall season. And I mean, the more prepared you feel, the more comfortable you will be. I mean, and that means like roles around you helping you out. The upperclassmen were really great preparing both of us for the roles that we had on the field, both of us playing central positions. It actually felt pretty comfortable to me.
Yeah, me too. I felt really comfortable, always being supported by the upperclassmates.
Now, Cammie, you led the team with 7 goals last year. How did you make such a successful jump from the collegiate level to now?
I think also most of my goals were on corners, and it's the forwards' like job. Most of the time they get the corners, and I would not be able to score if they didn't get the corners first. So I think even though the goal ends up being in my name, it's a teamwork at the end, of course.
Do you feel like this year you're taking more of a lead on the offensive side of things?
I hope so, but we're all trying. I think we have some new freshmen also coming in that are leaders on and off the field. So it's going to be really interesting to have all of us leading on the field.
Now, if so, how do you feel like being a leader as a sophomore?
Proud, of course. Being able to communicate to the freshmen all of our culture and also having our upperclassmates, sophomores, last year sophomores, and juniors, seniors this year. I think they're all doing a great job.
On the defensive side of things, what changes do you hope to make from last year to this year?
Definitely more so keeping the ball out of our defensive 25 if possible. I think last year we had a lot of turnovers in the defensive 25 as well as corners that weren't that necessary, and I think we're doing a good job of keeping the ball out and outletting properly so that the ball doesn't end up and silly mistakes aren't made in our circle.
You both have a new head coach Courtney Vito. What is it like at practices now with the new head coach?
Extremely intense. Everything's very laid out for us. We know what we're getting into, and we know what we need to be prepared for before practice.
Are any play call changes on either side of the ball or anything like that?
Not so much a new press, but definitely a more organized press.
Yes, with
it's very clear.
Defined roles.
Yes. So our mids have a bit of a different role depending on what the press is, and our outletting has changed a bit to a different screen system.
Yeah, and being able to identify what the other team is doing and being able to adapt our press to whatever their strategy is as well.
There are several new players at midfield and forward. How do you think they have made the adjustment and transition to the team?
Very well, extremely well actually. I think we started connecting starting like the second day of practice, which is amazing considering that we haven't really met them yet, and we've had a transfer from Pacific who's come in and fit right in with our defensive formation and things like that. So we're all really shocked and very happy that they've picked up so fast on so many things.
Here inside the Fall Sports Preview Show in the Field Hockey Hour, we're talking to defender Frankie O'Brien and midfielder Cammie Larson. Now, what have you both done in the last year to try and improve your game?
I think that improving on personal turnovers, like trying to keep the ball safe, let's say, it takes a lot of effort to take the ball away from the other team. So once you have it, I think just trying to keep it safe, make the right pass, make the safe pass. It's all individual mistakes that make the difference at the end.
Personally, my fitness, I think, has gotten a lot better from last year to this year, and that was definitely, I knew that it was necessary come springtime to make those changes over the summer. Also just concentrating and making the smart pass and looking up before even receiving the ball.
Now, who do you think will be your toughest opponent in the CAA this year?
We have a very strong conference, but I would have to say that either Delaware or William & Mary would definitely give us more of a run for our money.
Hofstra had the second highest goals against per game in the CAA last year. How does the team make improvements to stop other offenses?
I think that our goal is a lot more clear this time, and it will be more so of a team defensive unit than just our back four being kind of pounded with shots the entire time. I think we'll be a lot better off with our outletting, and it'll actually cause more of a we'll have a bit more of an attacking unit instead of just a defensive game.
Mm-hmm.
Now over to the goalie battle. Cecilia DeSimone and Marlene Vandervet are going to be replacing Betty Bosmont this year. What do you think of them both so far this year?
They're two really great communicators in the goal, which you need, so your defense is less confused. They're also very aggressive goalies, and they're great with off-ball movement and things like that.
How are some of the new defensive and offensive players fitting in so far?
I think great. We're all connecting together. I think this year there's a clear strategy. We know what we're playing for. We're all on the same page. So once everyone knows what they're doing and realizing everyone has an important role within this unit, things just turn up like working.
So who's the fastest on the team?
Warfel.
Meredith.
Funniest on the team?
Juna.
Yeah, probably Juna.
First celebrity crush.
That's a hard one.
That's a hard one.
Jonas.
All right, they're coming back. They're coming back.
What's the one of High School Musical?
Troy Bolton.
Troy Bolton.
Oh, that's not his name.
Well, that was his name right now. That was his name.
Biggest jokester on the team.
Kennedy. Kennedy Coates.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite athlete?
Lucia Neymar.
I like Megan Rapinoe.
What kind of superpower would you both want to have?
Invisibility.
Stop time.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
Good answer.
That's an easy one.
But you got to see it.
All right, now finish this sentence. Hofstra wins the CAA if
we all work together.
Hofstra wins the CAA if we compete.
All right, just before we wrap it up here on the Field Hockey Hour, the Fall Sports Preview Show, let's bring on our very own Mia Thompson for the Beyond the Pride.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good, Mia. How are you?
I'm good.
Doing pretty well, yeah.
I'm excited to talk about CAA field hockey. So let's get into it with what seem to be Hofstra's three biggest opponents this year. We've got the University of Delaware, James Madison University, and William & Mary. So the CAA coaches, if you look at their preseason rankings, they seem to agree. They've picked William & Mary to repeat as CAA champions this year, and Delaware to come in second, and JMU in third. They also look really strong in preseason team picks. William & Mary has 4 all CAA preseason team picks, plus preseason player of the year, Christy Vandekamp. JMU has 3, Delaware has 2, and of course, repping Hofstra on the list is our very own Cami Larson, who you two just spoke to.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of great talent there, and especially Cami Larson. Standings did come out today, and it's very interesting to see how everything will unfold this season.
Absolutely. Going to be an exciting year. So let's get into it, starting with Delaware, which is a very, very interesting team. They won the NCAA in 2016 and are ranked 16th in the NCAA RPI poll. Now, if you look at their record, you may not get that impression just because their record's has dipped a little bit over the past couple of years, but that's due to them as they advance, moving up, playing better teams nationally. And so I want to talk with you guys about what you think about that strategy. I personally think that it's a really great chance to really prove yourself and step up outside of conference play.
Yeah, it helps prove yourself and gets you name recognition all across the country. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's not just for the recognition. It's also for, a bid into the tournament, like if they don't win the CAA, because they didn't win last year, but they were, a mid-teens team for most of the year. They're like 15, 16, 18, 19, around that range. So it does work very well in their favor, especially if they can show off some of their key wins.
Exactly. It can make your record look a little bit deceptively low, but I think it makes you a really dangerous competitor all around. So next up, we've got JMU, who beat Hofstra 7 times in a row until last year when Hofstra beat them 1-0 in a very highly contested game. Do you guys think that this could happen again?
I can see it happening. I think it will. The Hofstra played them very tough last year, and I think with their new scheme that they got going over there, I think it could happen.
Exactly. And JMU, historically, it's important to note, national level competitor, won the CAA very recently and has competed, as you said, nationally ranked, which brings us to William & Mary, another ranked team going into the season. As we mentioned, reigning CAA champs, ranked number 21 in the country. Hofstra only lost to this team 1-0, which spells great things for the Pride this year.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be really tough. They did beat JMU, and that was at home, 1-0, but they lost 1-0 at home to William & Mary. The tough thing is they're going on the road to face both of these teams. JMU is really good, and of course William & Mary defending CAA champions, ranked as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what this team does, and how do they bounce back with being on the road.
You bring up a great point, which is that because it's a new season, the home and away teams are going to be flipped, so everyone that Hofstra played at home last season, they're going to play away this year, and vice versa, which brings me to my next question for you guys. Which matchup do you think is going to be the biggest for Hofstra?
It has to be JMU.
Yeah,
the reason why I say that is because they were able to get a signature win. They played their best field hockey. They played great offense. Great defense. Offense, things were a little bit slow until Cami Larson scored. Just 2 minutes left in the game. But can they have that kind of performance again? Because William and Mary and Delaware, those are going to be some really tough games for them. But JMU, they beat them at home. Like I said, it's going to be very tough for them to beat them on the road this year. But I'm looking for one of those big wins to kind of give them that confidence, to kind of lift up their spirits and help them going forward.
Yeah, JMU was ranked 3rd in the preseason poll. That'd be a huge energy boost for
Huge
them,
upset.
especially since they're going to be playing William and Mary the day that earlier that weekend on Friday, and then they go down to JMU. I think if they could beat at least JMU right there, that'd be huge.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I also think, everybody loves a rivalry. I think this emotions are going to be very high coming into this game. JMU's going to be looking for revenge. Hofstra's going to be looking to push this win streak. But let's talk about this young season so far. It's pretty early, but each of these 3 teams has had at least one game or scrimmage at this point. So let's start with William & Mary. Our reigning champs lost 1-0 to UVA in a scrimmage earlier this month. Now, granted, scrimmages are a little bit different. A lot of teams sort of go into them looking to try out lineups, plays, but UVA is in one of the best conferences for field hockey in the country, in the ACC. And so the fact that William & Mary is so competitive with UVA is a really good sign for them. And it's important to mention that UVA is ranked 12th in the RPI poll right now, so that they're really starting strong.
Yeah, that's really impressive. To only go, given it's only scrimmage, but to only lose 1-0, that's really good. And that just shows you how tough competitive they bring it, even in a scrimmage. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, and I think also that's where that really, really big advantage in the CAA preseason team comes in. You've got 4 players on that team, and that's really where that difference comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very important to note that when you play that well against a Power 5 team in the ACC, if you're able to go wire to wire with them, if you were able to play them in a full game where you don't try new things, or you don't have some people that wouldn't usually play, if you have your starters out there and have all that, then you could really play wire to wire them and possibly beat them. So Hofstra's really got a tough team on their hands if William and Mary is able to beat or not beat, but play really tough on a Power 5 conference. Yeah.
Very true, very true. Next up, University of Delaware played their first game of the season earlier this afternoon, beating the number 22 ranked University of Albany 1-0 in their first shutout in a season opener since 2017.
Wow. Shutout too.
Shutout
fashion. That's very
and a ranked team as well.
Yeah, exactly.
A number 22 team
in double overtime, no less.
Double overtime. Oh my goodness.
So this is a team that plays hard and knows how to keep up the intensity.
Yeah, exactly. That's very impressive. Given Albany is not up there with the Power 5, but they're ranked number 22. They're no joke to mess with here. So that's no matter what, that's an impressive win. I'll give them that.
Exactly. Shows that they continue to be national contenders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they probably want to come into this season. You're really upset that they lost the CAA last year, especially since they were ranked in their 16th as much as last year.
Exactly. Yeah. And our third matchup, JMU won their season opener against Bucknell earlier this year. So that just shows again that these 3 teams really are coming out strong, making a name for themselves in the beginning of this young season. So I have to ask you guys before I go, you're going to stick with JMU as your pick?
Oof. Jesse.
JMU. As the game itself.
As the game to watch against Hofstra.
Yes, I'm going to say JMU, and here's why. Because you still have these 3 top teams. You have JMU, you have Delaware, and you have William & Mary. There's one more playoff spot. And so Hofstra, if they could beat the teams that are kind of like the 4s and the 5s and the teams below them, and then if they can get a win and pick one of those off against one of those top upper tier teams, they can make the CAA tournament.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with JMU. You don't want to go too far too fast with those teams like William & Mary and Delaware that are beating these high tier teams. I think they can. I think they compete with them, but the most reasonable one I think is JMU.
Exactly. And another thing to mention real quick is that there is a big shift to the structure of the game this year, going from based on halves to based on quarters. So that factored in with playing in different spots means that really anything can happen, and it's sure to be an exciting year.
Especially with their fast pace of play. We saw it today how they go up and down the field very fast. And now it totally changes with these 4 quarters.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more time stoppage. You might be able to draw up some different plays and kind of take a breather. I kind of like the new format too. It's very interesting.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you, Mia.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, thank you, Mia, for coming on to bring us beyond the pride across the CAA field hockey. We have just about a minute or so before we wrap up. So, Kyle, any closing thoughts on this field hockey team in the season ahead?
This is going to be a nice young team for the future ahead. They're very good. You can see the talent is there, and I'm very happy for it. And I can't wait to see what they do in the coming years.
I absolutely agree. Whether they make the CAA tournament this year or not, it should be very exciting to see what players step up, who really takes advantage of being in what role, and I can't wait to see it. So, thank you everybody for tuning in to the Field Hockey Hour of the Fall Sports Preview Show. We'll take a quick timeout, and when we come back, we'll have Max Sacco and Ryan Yee to break down women's soccer, what they saw last year, what they hope to have this year. Many thanks to everybody who made this hour possible, including our engineer, Tommy Aquilina, for the Field Hockey Hour. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Still a lot of fall sports coming at you. We'll be right back.
What's up, Hofstra Pride sports fans? Welcome to the third hour of the 2019 Fall Preview Show, the Locker Room Edition. We've gone over the Pride volleyball team. We've gone over the field hockey team. But now it is time to finally talk some Hofstra Pride women's soccer. I'm Ryan Yee. Here beside me is my friend and co-host, Max Sacco. Max, you fired up to talk about some women's soccer.
Ryan, this is one of my favorite teams, if not my favorite team on campus, like the wrestling team. I cannot wait to talk about some women's soccer. But if you like Hofstra Sports and want to hear more about them, feel free to follow us at The Locker Room. You can follow us on the Hofstra University Instagram all night with stuff like that. Or you could follow the Locker Room Instagram and Twitter at WRHU_TLR.
All right, well, let's hop right into it here on 88.7 FM WRHU. Before, obviously, we get into the year that is to come for this Hofstra Pride soccer team, let's talk about the Hofstra Pride team and what they did in 2018. A very successful season for this Hofstra Pride soccer team. Obviously, we all know they became CAA champs back-to-back. Max, what did you see from the 2018 season that really stood out to you?
Ryan, what stood out to me was just the sheer amount of offensive power they had. I mean, every game, Sabrina Bryan, the minute she touched that ball, she seemed to be able to just weave her wave like a magician. Boom! Back of the net. And what amazed me, though, is that you would see Lucy Porter and Miri Taylor. It would go Taylor to Porter. Porter to Bryan, shoots and scores. It was so fluid to watch that. That's what stood out to me, was just how fluid that offense was.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. The offensive prowess on this team, you talk about players like Lucy Porter, like Sabrina Bryan, and what they were able to do last season was absolutely incredible. You just go down the list of this 2018 season and the stats that they played. Look, they finished third in the CAA, not at the top, but they did ultimately get that done in the playoffs. But look at what they did. They were top in shots taken, 347. Top in the CAA in points, 115. Top in the CAA in goals, 39. They were second in goals per game, first in assists, and the list goes on and on. It's absolutely incredible what this team was able to do last season, especially on the offensive front, largely led by Sabrina Bryan and Lucy Porter.
You can't deny that, but Ryan, I mean, something you can't overlook either is that goalie platoon
Absolutely.
the Pride used. I mean, that was something big for them last season. They rotated between two goalies, and listen, in 2017 they had 11 shutouts, which was first in the CAA. Next year, they get 9 shutouts, which is still first in the CAA. I mean, you can't deny that the Pride have one of the strongest attacks and the strongest back line with their goalie.
And a very interesting approach that this Hofstra Pride team went into the 2018 season. They did use a platoon goalie system where they used one goalie in that first half and then a goalie in that second half. They were led by seniors Ashley Wilson and Jenna Borison. Both of them playing very, very well for this team, was kind of that backbone that kind of led up and was able to shut down opponents and allow the offense to kind of move up there, play aggressively, and be able to score the goals that they did. You look at what Ashley Wilson was able to do. She played 19 games, 4 of them were started, and had a 1.56 goals against average. Then you look at what Jenna Borison was able to do. 19 games played, 19 games started, and a 0.69 goals against average. That's an absolutely ridiculously low average. And when you have a goalie like that, 2 goalies like that, even 1.56 is not bad at all. When you have something like that, it's absolutely very impressive, and it allows your team to go out there and really score a lot of points up front.
It does allow your team to score a lot of points up front, Ryan, and it is that goalie and that defense that took them past, at the time, 22 ranked Boston College. We beat the ranked Boston College team 4-1 in Boston, and we're able to get to the second round where we faced Wisconsin. Obviously, the team loses 6-0 in Wisconsin, but the fact you're able to upset a top 25 team, and not just a top 25 team, but a top 25 team from the ACC, which is a premier soccer conference, speaks for itself.
No, absolutely. I mean, you look down the scores of what they were able to do in the CAA championship. 1-0 against Delaware in the quarterfinals. 1-0 against Northeastern in the semifinals. 2-0 against James Madison in the championship game. No goals allowed in the playoff. And when you have that confidence in your defense, in your goalies, it allows Sabrina Bryan, players like Sabrina Bryan and Lucy Porter, to go out there and be able to really, not have that worry of being able to, make a mistake up front that's going to cost them back front. They have a lot of confidence in that back goalie system and the defense that they had last season, which allowed them to open up the opportunities to play really aggressively.
And it's those opportunities you want. I mean, any soccer team, any sports team. I mean, that team last year reminded me of the Ajax teams of last season of the Champions League. They were youthful. They were fun. But know what? When they need to go on offense, you rush the wingers forward. Pretty much Sabrina Bryan played the role of Frankie de Jong because you would see him cut through the middle. Bryan would follow up and score right away. So they remind me of that team where it's youthful, it's fun, and they're scoring a lot. And the results show.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, it was an absolutely memorable season for this team. Back-to-back CAA champions. They were able to reach to that second round of the NCAA national tournament, and we're going to look back, and it's a fantastic season. But it's now we got to look ahead, and hopefully maybe they can make it 3 times in a row. But we'll talk about that very soon. That wraps up our recap of last season for the women's soccer team here on 88.7 FM WRHU. When we come back, we are going to have an exclusive interview with head coach Simon Ridioff. But first, a sports break with Andrew Bacigalupo.
With your fall preview show update, I'm Andrew Bacigalupo. Starting off on campus, the Hofstra Pride field hockey team fell in their season opener earlier today against Wagner by the score of 3-0. The Pride look to get their first victory of the season when their matchup against St. Joe's tips off this Sunday at 2 p.m. Traveling to Brown University on the soccer field for the Pride, the women's soccer team fell to Brown by a score of 2-1. Sabrina Bryan was the lone goal scorer for the Pride. From the fields onto the court, Hofstra's volleyball match against Penn State has come to a close. Penn State comes out on top with a win in 3 straight sets. On the diamond, back in the Boogie Down Bronx after a long road trip, things aren't too boogie for the Yankees. The Yanks currently trail the Oakland A's by a score of 4-2. Over on the south side of Chicago, the Cubs took down the Brewers by a score of 7-2. Nicholas Castellanos led the scoring for the Cubbies as he launched 2 home runs. Sound courtesy of MLB. The New York Mets look to get back in the win column after they got swept by the Atlanta Braves. They are on the road tonight as they battle the Philadelphia Phillies in a crucial series. Manager Mickey Callaway had this to say about the losing streak and tonight's matchup.
You have to move on. I know we say this every time we lose. You do. You really do. You have to move on, regroup. We got to go into Philly and take care of business.
Sound courtesy of MLB. With your fall preview show sports update, I'm Andrew Bacigalupo. Now let's send it back to our hosts Ryan Yee and Max Sacco.
Welcome back inside the Fall Sports Preview Show. My name is Max Sacco. Alongside me, the always fun to be with Ryan Yee. Right now, we have an exclusive interview with the women's soccer coach, Simon Ridioff. Coach, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Coach, a very successful last season for you and your team. CAA champs made the NCAA tournament. First round upset, but what needs to change to take that next step and make it to that 3rd or 4th round in the tournament?
Back at those kind of years, and you're obviously full of pride because of what we achieved, but you also question what you need to do to get better. And we had a tremendous staff last year, and me and Toby, who I love tremendously, are very similar in the way we approach the game. Adding new staff members with new ideas has kind of, given us a little bit different incentive, and I think that's probably what we needed. We needed a little bit more of a style change, especially at the next level, a little tweak here or there, new and fresh ideas, and I think this new coaching staff have created that. I've done what I can do, and I think my style and philosophy and coaching works well with Hofstra and gets us to where we need to be. But I think to get to the next stage, you need to accept other people's ideas, and even though I'm an old dog, I'm willing to learn new tricks, and hopefully the new coaching staff will give that little wrinkle to get us to that 3rd round, and that would be the goal this year.
Now, Coach, you've never had a losing season as you've been the coach of the Hofstra Pride. How big of an accolade is that for you personally, and how ready do you think the team is to make it another season without losing?
It it's irrelevant to me. Whether I've lost 10 years ago or last year, it's all intrinsic motivation for myself. I like to put a product which I'm proud of, which hopefully the university's proud of, and it's a product on the field and it's a product off the field. Our profession gets debated on whether we're good or bad on wins and losses, but it's far more than that. You're engineering humans, and whether we have a bad year by losses per se, we're probably going to have a good year in how we create human beings and allow young players to grow. And if you invest your time in the young players, they'll become better human beings and they're going to be better prepared for the real life. And that's how I ultimately focus on my successes and losses. Yes, it's great to get the wins. Yes, it's great to win championships, and that's ultimately what I get judged on by my boss. But it's more than that. It's GPAs, it's community service, it's maturity, it's allowing your players to grow. So I would put 25% in the wins and losses, but my boss probably 75%. But the other stuff, I'm pretty sure we're growing kids and making them better people.
Coach, you enter the 2019 season as back-to-back CAA champions. Do you feel there's a sense of pressure on the team and kind of have a target on your back because you went back-to-back?
Not more than what we've put on ourselves. Again, we go back to intrinsic pressure. Our pressure is always to compete for the CAAs. The external stuff, that's for polls, that's for the teams to use. We don't do that. We focus on ourselves. If we do the right things, if we work hard, if we demand better each day, we're going to be competitive. And once we're competitive, we've got a good chance to win things. If we don't do those little things, we won't be. And we'll reevaluate and we'll challenge ourselves in the future. So I don't like having targets. From a personal perspective, I always like to play the underdog role. But it's difficult to do now. We've been there at the top of the CAAs for the last 15, 16 years, here or there. So, it comes with the territory.
Again, you are listening to the Fall Sports Preview Show here on 88.7 FM WRHU, or watching live on Facebook Live right now. I'm Max Sacco, alongside me, Ryan Yee. We have an exclusive interview with the Hofstra Pride women's soccer coach, Simon Ridio. Coach, two key players from last season, Sabrina Bryan and Lucy Porter. How important are they for the upcoming year?
Oh, they're tremendously important. I'd be foolish to say that we can win things without them both. That junior class has been fantastic, and it's got a real combination of quality individuals and fantastic players. And it's pinnacled by Lucy Porter and Sabrina Bryan. They score goals, they get assists, their work ethic is tremendous. And when you watch them play, you just really appreciate them on the field and what they do for the team, the intangibles. And when you've got players of that quality willing to dig in deep and work extra hard and do the dirty stuff, you're going to have good teams, and those are the leaders. And that junior class is a fantastic leadership class. They're going to carry us, and as hard as they work and as hard as they stick together, we'll be as successful as they make us.
Now, Coach, something interesting from last season, a different type of philosophy that we don't necessarily see too often in the play of soccer. You split playing time between your two goalies. Are we going to see that again this year?
I've done it historically in different years. I don't know why it works. It's not traditional, and it's not really my philosophy, so it depends on who stands out. If one goalkeeper steps herself higher than the others, then she'll get the nod and she'll stick to the starting role in both halves. If she doesn't, and another goalkeeper comes in and challenges her, then we might platoon. But right now, I think one goalkeeper's edging ahead, and if she continues on that ascendancy, then I think we'll go into the season with one goalkeeper per game.
Now, Coach, what will define a successful 2019 season?
My personal goals is, again, I want to win things. You always do, but I want to grow as a person and learn to manage my staff as efficiently as possible. And I want to be there for my players on and off the field, and hopefully nurture them enough to know that they can come to me whenever they need anything, and and develop as people as well as players. And if they learn how to be good players and learn how to be good people, then I think I've achieved my goal.
Coach, we are going to do a quick round of rapid-fire questions now. So, Coach, the player with the best hair is?
I have no clue. Let me think about that. Best hair. I'm going to go with what they said, Caroline Nuttall, I guess.
Now, player with the best goal celebration that you've seen?
I always liked Sabrina Bryan's when she scored against BC in the second round, in first round at NCAAs. It was quite an enjoyable celebration.
Now, your soccer role model is player or coach?
Brian Robson. He's a Man United player from the mid-'80s. Captain Marvel, they called him.
All right, so right before the Alex Ferguson era then.
Yeah, he was just around. He was the first 2 years of Alex Ferguson's era. So,
follow up, your favorite soccer team is?
Manchester United.
Now, the team victory song is?
Absolutely no clue. Modern music's not my bag, as Austin Powers would say.
Now, the most memorable moment from last season was?
Oh, it's a couple. I think beating Northeastern in the semi-final at CAA was probably the most gratifying. I thought that was the most tough game to win. Beating James Madison in the CAA final. Maddie Anderson getting capped as player of the tournament and CAA Defender of the Year after what she's gone through was a tremendous achievement. And obviously beating BC in the first round, going to an ACC powerhouse away and beating them 4-1. Those were all fantastic achievements, and something I'm pretty proud about.
And finally, the loaded question: Hofstra will win the CAA if
we have a sprinkle of luck and stay healthy.
Well, thank you, Coach.
Yeah, thank you, Max.
And once again, thank you to head coach of the women's soccer team, head coach Simon Ridioff. A pretty insightful interview there, Max. The one big takeaway, yes, he brings in all the good points and he mentions about his players and what they need to do to have a successful season. But what I really took away from that interview was just how philosophical, is that the word? How reflective he is. And I think something like that, a personality trait like that in your head coach, can really bring out the best of the players, just to be able to give a chance for your all-star players to kind of reflect in that same way with you, and to be able to really look at the game and not just being just a game, but being something larger than that.
No, and I mean that reflected his answers. I mean, we asked him, Coach, what are your goals for this season ahead? And it was a mix of both, let's win the CAA, but also to see these young women grow and enter the real world. That's a beautiful answer. It shows that, like you said, it's beyond the game. It's about life and growing up, and this is just one step of it.
And for me, it's always nice to get those types of unique answers from interviews like that. We're so used to in this business interviewing people and getting the typical, oh yes, that we'll do better next season. We have to improve from X, X, and X. But that interview was very interesting, and it was one of the better ones I've definitely had. So we'll definitely hope to do that again in the future with head coach Simon Ridioff. Well, we talked about the season that was for this women's soccer team. It is now time to look ahead to what this 2019 season will bring for the girls. They already kicked off their season. They've already played 3 games. We'll get into that. But Max, going into this 2019 fall season, what is your expectations for this team?
Ryan, my expectation is honestly another CAA crown. I mean, you look at this team, they retained most of their players. They had bench players last year who are now growing into bigger roles this year. You have new transfers coming in as well. This team is primed to come out. I mean, look at the starting 11. Skylar Kuzmich, Monique Ianella, Lily Stavisky, Annabelle Hoffman, Amanda Ebsen. That's just the defense and the goalie. That defense, yeah, they lost a couple players, but the players they got haven't been shabby at all.
No, absolutely about that. And what's crazy about this lineup is that they only have one senior in that starting 11 that they've used in the first 2 games. So I'm assuming that is the lineup that they're kind of looking at to build around for later in the season. Monique Ianella is the only senior that's on there. Everyone else is so much younger. And you think about teams that go back to back and have created these runs of dominance, and you usually think of older teams. You think of a team that's comprised of older students, older athletes, maybe a few seniors sprinkled here and there, but not this team. This team looks like it's going to be good for a very long time.
No, yeah, this team really just emphasized. I'm going to make another soccer reference here, Ryan, but really looking like the Juventus team of the late to early 2000s entering into the 2010s. I mean, they built a young core of 23, 24-year-olds. You fast forward 10 years now, that team is still winning the Italian Serie A, but they still have those same guys who are now just in their 30s. So it's building that youth core, building around having one or two seniors there to provide an older mentality, and keeping your youth healthy, and that just leads to success.
Well, there's so many different storylines that are heading into this 2019 fall season for this women's soccer team, for the Pride. I don't even know where to begin, but let's start with the goalkeeping situation. We heard it from head coach Simon Ridioff in his interview that historically he's used a platoon type system. He's used two goalies. He starts one in the first half and then puts another one in the second half. The philosophy behind that maybe is to keep your goalies fresh. It gives new looks to the other opposing team. But this year they're going with their main person, and that's going to be Skylar Kuzmich. And she's a freshman coming in to this team. She beat out a bunch of veterans on this team for that starting job. So I'm very excited to see what Skylar has to bring to this Hofstra Pride Soccer Club.
I completely agree. I mean, Kuzmich is a true freshman, no red shirt, no nothing. I graduated high school, I'm here at college now, let's do this. But to see someone like her come in and say, this is my team, we're doing this, I'm going to be the goalie, to have that attitude for 4 years, Ryan, we were talking about this earlier, you hit it on the head. The only other team really on campus that we've seen lately do that was Jess Smith with women's lacrosse, where you see that same, I just got out, let's do this, and she's rocked it. I mean, they played Monmouth 1-0. She kept the shutout.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That first collegiate game that she played was absolutely stellar. And, you know, it can't be understated about how big the jump is from going from high school play, going from that younger youth level play, and coming to a D1 collegiate system. You're going to face harder shots. You're facing smarter players. And these are not just players from the United States. You look at even the Hofstra Pride team alone. They have players from across the world. So you're facing the best talent in the games that you're faced. So definitely a tall task to ask for Skylar Kuzmich to go out there and really play, but she's proved that she can do just that.
It is. She's proved that she can do that. But Ryan, I'm going to tee you up here. You said international players, and when I say international players for this team, I'm thinking of Lucy Porter. I mean, to look at another star player of this team who she just entered her junior year, Lucy Porter really running that midfield. She is the heart and soul of that team.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, we talked a little bit about how the team was so good last season, but they do have a few key departures that left. You look at Jen Bunicor. She was leading the team in assists. She had 14 assists setting up those goals. So their question begs to differ whether or not how dependent was the success of Lucy Porter, and even I'll add Sabrina Bryan in there, of their goal totals in the success of Jen Bunicor at being able to tee them up and be able to assist them. But when we spoke with the head coach in some preseason meetings, he mentioned that it is now time for Lucy Porter and Sabrina Bryan to step up in those shoes. And yes, the play of Lucy Porter, she scored in that first opening game against Monmouth, the lone goal in that one, the game winner, 1-0, and it's not surprising. I mean, me and you both sat down and we looked at the stat sheet and we're like, oh, there she goes. She's at it again, and she's going to have another historical season. She opens up the game with 1-0, and then not to mention in their game today, yes, it was a 2-1 loss to Brown, but guess who scored? That's Sabrina Bryan. The leading goal scorers for this Hofstra Pride team in the CAA as well. So it's not surprising that the first two goals come from their most productive players.
No, it's not surprising at all. I mean, you say it's a 1-2 loss to Brown. Brown is a perennial Ivy League powerhouse team. You can't tell them to say, they lost. They kept it close to a team that usually falls to the top. But no, Sabrina Bryan, Lucy Porter, they're going to be the people to run through on this offense. But somebody that you don't think about a lot, but she helped a lot with the assist, Taylor Meary.
Yep.
She might have not gotten as many assists. She helped get the assister. So she would get it to Porter, Porter to Bryan. But she was always at the start of that circuit because you need something to start a circuit. And Taylor Meary was the spark.
And she's kind of my sleeper player on this team because, you have so many good departing players. You have Bunicor who left on that offensive end, and you ask yourself who's going to step up. Yes, Sabrina Bryan should step up. Yes, Lucy Porter should step up. But how much more production can you really get out of those two players after having historical seasons last season? You need someone else to add to that value. It's not like Sabrina Bryan and Lucy Porter are going to be able to score 30 goals in a season or be able to tee up 20 assists. You're going to have someone else that hasn't been there before to step up. And that's where the name Taylor Mary really rings out to me. She started 13 out of 17 games last season as a true freshman, and this year she started all 3 games so far, and she did also win CAA Rookie of the Year as well. So the potential is there, and I think she's going to be the player that really steps up and fills in that production to keep this run of dominance going for the Pride.
I know, and I think that Mary Taylor can keep this run of dominance going. But Ryan, dominant too. Sabrina Bryan, CAA Player of the Year, led the CAA in goals, shots, assists. You name an offensive category, she probably was the top 2 of it. I think the question now for her entering this season is, can I get a repeat performance?
No, absolutely. I mean, you want to have the same production from both of your top players. I think the pressure is even higher on them because they lost many players and because they're looking to be back-to-back-to-back champions. You heard it from head coach Simon Ridioff. They don't necessarily like to take the position of being kind of the target on your back team, but that's what they are, and this is the time to prove it. I don't think many teams can say that they've been three-peat champions, and they have the opportunity to do that here. They have an opportunity to make history, and I'm really excited for this team. But just going up and talking about the future and what would make this a successful season, Coach Ridioff kind of mentioned it, but Max, for you, what defines a successful season for this Pride team heading into the 2019 season?
Well, for me, I think there's 3 core components. I think there's 3 parts that all go together. I think the first part is that you have another player either come out as Rookie of the Year or Player of the Year. I think you need to see Sabrina Bryan at least defend her title. If not, at least still finish top 3 in goals, assists, shots, something like that. I think part 2 would be that they take the CAA crown. And part 3, if they make it, is that they can reach the 3rd round of the NCAA tournament. That's been the big thing for Coach and these players, that can we make it to the 3rd round? Because at the 3rd round is when you squeak out the rest of the opponents. That's when you start to see your perennial teams, your Penn States, your Michigan State, your Big Ten, ACC foes. The question is now, can we get to that 3rd round and throw our heads in and say, this is our time too, move out of the way?
Right. No, I completely agree. I think anything less than a CAA championship would be deemed somewhat of a failure for this team, which is kind of crazy to say because conference championships do not come often for any team. It's always a something that very, you heard it from head coach Simon Ridioff, that things just need to work your way. There needs to be a little dash of luck. They need to stay healthy and all these different types of questions to get to that stage. But to just even say, and just to be a part of a team and be able to experience and watch a team that is the goal, and anything less than that is unsuccessful, is pretty crazy to say now that I say it out loud. But no, I agree with you. I think their next step is to try to make it to that 3rd round of the NCAA. They kind of started off a little bit slow here. They picked up their first win against Monmouth 1-0, but then they fell to number 6 Penn State 6-0, and then falling today to Brown 2-1. I'm not necessarily worried about that because I think in non-conference teams, in that schedule, I think this team plans to put out and make these face these top level teams in order to prepare themselves for their goal to get past the NCAA championship. So I'm completely fine with this team, and I'm very confident going forward with the women's soccer team.
I'm very confident too, and Ryan, you hit it on the head. Listen, non-conference, you might as well prep to face the opponents you're going to prep. Face your Penn States, face your Browns, face your champions, so that when it comes time to see them again in the tournament, when it counts, you can win.
Absolutely.
And that will do it here for our preview of the season ahead for the Hofstra Pride women's soccer team. Now we are going to head to an update break with Andrew Bacigalupo.
With your fall preview show update, I'm Andrew Bacigalupo. Starting off on campus, the Hofstra Pride field hockey team fell in their season opener 3-0 against Wagner. The Pride will look to get their first victory of the season in their matchup against St. Joe's this Sunday at 2 p.m. Traveling to Brown University on the soccer field for the Pride, the women's soccer team fell to Brown by a score of 2-1. Sabrina Bryan was a lone goal scorer for the Pride. From the fields to the courts, Hofstra Volleyball's matchup against Penn State has come to a close. Penn State comes out with the win in straight sets. On the diamond, back in the Boogie Down Bronx after a 9-game road trip, things aren't too boogie for the Yankees. The Yankees currently trail the Oakland A's by a score of 6-2 in the top of the 8th inning. Over on the south side of Chicago, the Cubs took down the Brewers by a score of 7-1. Nicholas Castellanos led the scoring for the Cubbies as he launched 2 home runs.
Castellanos drives one in the air, deep left center. Get out the tape measure, long gone. Castellanos' second home run of the day. Cubs lead 5-0.
Sound courtesy of MLB. Over in the city of brotherly love, the New York Mets look to gain some ground in the wild card race in a crucial divisional matchup against the Philadelphia Phillies. Currently, right now, in the bottom of the 7th, both teams remain tied at 1. With your Fall Sports Preview Show update, I'm Andrew Baccialupo. Now let's send it back to our hosts, Max Sacco and Ryan Yee.
Hi, this is Sabrina Bryan, forward of the Hofstra women's soccer team, and you're listening to the Fall Sports Preview Show on 88.7 FM WRHU.
Well, we talked about what was and what is to be for this Hofstra Pride soccer team, and now it is time to play a package here that we have done by Eliza Kravitz, Nico Bermudez, and Jordan Stuper. A little highlight package of what is to be this upcoming season. Let's have a listen.
And it has worked for Simon Ridioff and the pride of Hofstra University as they storm the field and celebrate a title. The 2018 CA Women's Soccer Champs are the pride of Hofstra University.
The quest for another championship starts now. This year, the Hofstra women's soccer team seeks to win their 3rd CAA title in a row and are projected to do so in the preseason rankings. Last year, they pushed their way into the 2nd round of the NCAA tournament, but ultimately lost to Wisconsin. This time around, they hope for more success, being led by juniors Sabrina Bryan and Lucy Porter. Bryan led the CAA in goals last year with 13.
It's a race to the ball now. Taylor has it, who finds Bryan in the box. She shoots, and she scores! Sabrina Bryan puts the ball in the back of the net, puts Hofstra up 1-0.
Bryan was named to the preseason All-CAA team this year. As for Porter, it's no secret what she can do from midfield, scoring 11 goals and assisting in 4 a season ago.
Here comes Buenacore the other way. Drops it over to Little Boy, right back to Buenacore, trying to send a crosser through, and it's headed in! Well, Hofstra on the counterattack, and it's Lucy Porter that puts Hofstra up 1-0.
This time around, she's on the watch list for the Missouri Athletic Club Herman Trophy, which is awarded each year to the most outstanding collegiate female soccer player in the nation. Simon Ridioff is returning as the head coach for the Pride for the 14th straight season. With the team's appealing track record, he has recruited 11 new players for the 2019 season, alongside new assistant coach Kelsey Yam.
It's like anything, it's a fresh slate, trying to tweak our system a little bit. We've got a new coaching staff, so it's managing those guys and figuring out our strengths and weaknesses, and getting the team philosophy together. So we're basically working on pretty much everything: defensive unit, offensive unit, everything.
The biggest adjustment the Pride will have to make this year is losing their top goalies, Jenna Borison and Ashley Wilson, to graduation. That leaves the goalkeeping duties up for grabs.
Well, it's going to be an interesting year defensively, and we also lose our starting goalkeepers. We platooned last year with our 2 senior goalkeepers, and when you lose a goalkeeper and 2 starting centre-backs, it can get quite precarious in pre-season. So, again, if our front 6 do what they do, I think we've got the talent to be able to protect the goal a little bit like we did the last couple of years.
The Pride will look to hit the ground running early in what should be a very exciting 2019 season. For WRHU, I'm Eliza Kravitz.
Thank you, Eliza, Nico, and Jordan for that great package. You know, Max, I listened to that 2 minutes and 30 seconds of just highlights and what people have to say, and it just gets me fired up for this season to come. I hope, Max, it also fired you up as well. But now, something else that is also going to fire me up and that I'm very excited for. We're bringing on 2 key players from this soccer team, juniors Lucy Porter and Sabrina Bryan. Guys, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Now, both of you combined tallied 11 game-winning goals. Which one was the most memorable?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'd say out in the championship, I scored the first goal, and that was huge for us because it got us on the front foot, and we started feeling confident. And I think we needed that because it was quite early on in the game too.
I think for me, favorite game-winning goal was Boston College.
Oh, that was a great goal.
That game was the best game we've ever played in. It was, the intensity was there, our energy was there, everyone put in 110%, and we really played as a team.
And I know this is a hard question to ask, especially after a successful season that both of you had, but what is one area of your game you both want to improve on heading into this upcoming season?
I think I definitely want to improve on being able to score with both of my feet. I'm naturally more left foot dominant, so being able to be as effective with my right foot too will be a good aspect to add to my game.
I really want to step up as a leader on the field, particularly with Maddie Anderson and Kelly Girdis graduating. We don't have those leap back two behind us, so I feel like that role is needed, and I'm going to try and attempt to fill their boots, although they're quite big shoes to fill.
Now, both of you were ranked number 1 and number 2 for goals in the CAA last season. Now, to both of you, what does it mean to play along a player that has such offensive caliber right next to you?
Yeah, one of the great things about playing with Lucy is we're not only best friends, but we push each other on the field too. So when one of us scores, it gives the team a bunch of energy that we need. And we love playing together, so it's really just a lot of fun.
It's easy playing with Bean. I know what she's doing. Like, we both are on the same page, so I don't even have to look and I know where she's going. So it just makes it that little bit easier, particularly in the stressful games.
Now, with that CAA championship conference win, you moved on to the NCAA tournament. How much did that first round tournament win against Boston College, a huge upset that we were all rooting for you about, mean to both of you?
It was a huge game. We went in as the massive underdogs, and to prove ourselves wrong, really, because I think going into it, we kind of just were like, we'll give everything, but like whatever happens, happens. And it gave us a boost, and the program a boost, really, to see how far we've come and how we're now challenging at the next level. We're not just CAAs. We're pushing to be a big team on the national scale. So yeah, it's a big confidence boost.
Yeah, as Lucy said, we were the underdogs going into that game. So I think being able to pull out a win and get Hofstra onto the more known national scale is very big for us, and it proves that each year we're getting better. You know, we may have lost in the first round the year before, but we made it to the second, and our goal is to keep making it further and further.
Now, both of you have won your fair share of awards, Player of the Year, first team All-CAA, but are those recognitions like the ones you've earned a goal? Are those goals you set for yourself as the year goes ahead to remake those same awards?
For me, absolutely not. Like rewards come like secondary to the team performance. You've got to always put winning and the team ahead of getting these awards. Like they're great to get, and you feel very chuffed once you get them. But it's not something I go out with the aim of being like Player of the Week or whatever. It's just a nice like little side thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's the last thing on our minds. Our first goal is to help the team and to win the game. And if we get awards for our performance that game, for the weekend, then that's great. But that's definitely not the thing on our mind when we're playing.
And just how both of you answered that question, I feel like you guys are both team-type players, and the next question I'm about to ask you is not necessarily one that you think about, but I'm going to put you guys on the spot. For both of you as a whole, what are the statistics you are most proud of from last season?
I think for me it would be goals scored, because I came in, I did play a lot as a freshman. I started every game, but I only had 2 goals and I think maybe 1 or 2 assists. So being an offensive player, I knew I had to be better. I needed to help the team, especially with that year we lost Kristen Desmond, and she was the goal scorer for us. So I knew that coming in, I needed to produce more goals and I needed to help the team better. So I think that was my personal goal, was to score more, because I knew since we were losing her, we needed to pick it up somewhere.
I'd say goals scored too, because as a midfielder, you don't really expect to score that many goals. And I mean, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time for a lot of them. They weren't great goals, half of them, but they were goals still. And yeah, I proved myself wrong with being a goal scorer. I never thought I was that good in front of goal.
Again, you are listening to the Fall Sports Preview Show here on 88.7 FM WRHU, or watching us live on Facebook Live at WRHU Sports. My name is Max Sacco. Alongside me, the always talented Ryan Yee, my co-host, as we have an exclusive interview with Lucy Porter and Sabrina Bryan as we continue the Women's Soccer State of the Program, our hour of the show. Now, is there any added pressure for both of you entering the season, coming in as back-to-back CAA champs, but not only that, but the top 2 goal scorers across the whole league?
I think it really just fires you up. It gets you even more excited for the coming season, because we know we can do it, and now it's just going out there and proving it. Like, we've got the talent, we've got a great freshman class coming in, which have really added something to the team, given us all a boost, I think. And yeah, it gets me more excited and more wanting to win and to get that three-peat.
Yeah, each season we come in, we know we have a target in our back with how well we did the previous season. So I think that adds us, gives us a little more fuel to how hard we work, and we know that people are watching us. They know what we can do, so we need to prove to them that they're right, we are good, and we can keep winning.
Now, Lucy and Sabrina, both of you have been brought up in different football cultures, and I just want to dive deeper into that aspect. Lucy, you're from England. Sabrina, you're from the United States. Have you two been able to teach each other different things from your different backgrounds that has helped you with your success?
In England, it's a lot more like passing football. It's less direct. You kind of like keep possession a bit more. And in America, it's very direct and aggressive style. And Bean and a lot of the Americans are very like making the run straight away. So you just pay the ball, and it's very aggressive. So yeah, I think I've got more speedy with the build-up play, really. I don't know, what have you got?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the U.S. it is a little more common to play direct, so I'm used to seeing someone looking up to see me run and getting my head down and running as fast as I can down the line. But I think it helps us bring different aspects to our game, as in I know sometimes I need to play with Lucy more, and she knows sometimes just to kick it to me down the field and I'll get there.
Now, what will define a successful 29 campaign for both of you?
Well, definitely another ring. That's our goal every season. But also maybe make it to the third round of the NCAAs, because we definitely can do it. We've got the talent. And yeah, it's just a case of actually doing it.
Yeah, I completely agree. We want the third ring. We want to keep proving how dangerous we are. And making it to the third round would be a huge deal for us. It's what we've been working forward to since we've been here.
Now, I understand you guys are team players by the way you've answered these questions, and I know that that is the ultimate team goal, but what are your personal goals heading into the season?
I think for me is to step up more as a leader on the team. Like Lucy said, we lost Kelly and Maddie, which is huge losses for us, but I think I'm capable of helping the younger players on the team to show what we need them to do on the field to help us succeed.
Yeah, I completely agree. Being a leader on the field is something every team needs, and yeah, trying to bring, especially with the new freshmen and our new defence, bringing us the whole team together of the offence and the defence would be my goal, really.
Now, to wrap things up, we're going to play a quick round of rapid fire questions. First question: the player with the best hair is
Caroline Nuttall.
Krista. Can't say a second name.
The player with the best goal celebration is
me.
Lucy.
Your soccer role model, so who you try to most model or got you into soccer, is
Frank Lampard. He's a great player.
Lionel Messi.
Your favorite soccer team is
Wolverhampton Wanderers.
The women's national team.
The Hofstra women's soccer team victory song is
Oh gosh.
Truth Hurts by Lizzo.
Yeah.
The most memorable moment from last season was
winning the ring.
Beating Boston College.
Yeah.
And finally, this is the loaded one. Hofstra will win the CAA if
we play as a team.
We do what we can.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Again, that was Lucy Porter and Sabrina Bryan from the Hofstra women's soccer team. Both of you, thank you very much again. We had a great time interviewing you. And also, Truth Hurts. Good song to win with. Good song. But, Ryan, I mean, it was a great interview. They each gave very good answers. It wasn't just me, this is my team. It was, how can I help each other? How can I help my team?
And that's what's interesting about this team, because, you know, at times when you reach the epitome of success that you have seen last season, you know, you may have the tendency to kind of become, I don't want to say selfish, but a little bit more, you know, aware of your own accolades and what you've been able to do. But I think that is a reflection of head coach Simon Ridioff about his, you know, we talked about his philosophical ways of thinking. And I think that kind of, you know, pours out and kind of leaks into the team. And I think that builds a sense of maturity of this team, and they understand and are able to look back and be self-aware of where they're actually at, what goals they want to achieve. And I think for both Lucy Porter and Sabrina Bryan, it's very interesting for me to hear them, we want to score more goals. I mean, look at what they've already done. And we want to become better leaders and things like that. It's very nice to see that two top players in not just their teams, but in the CAA are still always looking to try to get better and better.
Yeah, it's great to see that. And Ryan, listen, more goals just means more rings. Let's
That's
make it
true.
3.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully. So you're listening to Women's Soccer Hour of the 2019 Fall Sports Preview Show here on The Locker Room in 88.7 FM WRHU. It is now time to bring on Chris Detweiler for our Beyond the Pride segment. Chris, what you got for us?
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on. Well, first of all, the CAA has been absolutely insane to begin this 2019 season. It's completely turned upside down. I mean, you have Elon, who was ranked 9th in the preseason poll out of 10 teams. They're at 3-0. You have Delaware, who was ranked 8th out of 10 teams in the CAA. They're 3-0. You got UNCW in 3rd place, who was ranked 7th in the CAA preseason polls. So this is incredible. And Hofstra, with their loss today, dropped down to the 7th spot in the CAA. So things are kind of changing. Do you think things are going to flip back eventually?
I'm not too worried at all. I mean, it's still early in the season. We're about what? Like about a little bit over a week
2
in.
weeks. 2 weeks
about
tops.
2 weeks in. We talked about this earlier in the show, Chris, about how we can see the philosophy that head coach Simon Ridioff went with when applying and scheduling the games that they have up front. They don't want an easy run in these non-conference games. Expect losses to happen here, because at the end of the day, when it comes to making the CAA championship, you want that conference record to be as good as possible. So what's going to prepare you best to perform at the peak at that time? It's to face tough competition up front. I'm not too worried about this.
Chris, did you look at the schedules? Elon, their 3 wins face Canisius, High Point, and Radford. I mean, who? Then you look at Delaware's schedule before the season. They face Lehigh, which is considerably, they could be good at lacrosse, but soccer, not their strong suit. They're towards the bottom. And Lafayette College, they are loading their early schedule with light teams. And what happens is that bites you down the road when you face real competition. You go, oh, I can't just kick this from 40 yards and score it top in, and then you lose. The only reason the CAA is flipped right now is because the good teams are facing better teams, and the bad teams are facing worse teams.
I think that's a really good point. And even you look at JMU right now; they're 1-2 in their first 3 games. But they played number 7 Georgetown to start off their season.
We played number 6 Penn State.
Exactly. So it's kind of the same idea. So that's a really good point. Maybe the teams like Elon, Delaware, and UNCW, they're just not playing as tough competition right now.
Right.
So, and really the games that matter are the CAA games. These non-conference games, it's almost like a warm-up season to the real season when they get down to the nitty-gritty, when, they start playing each other, and that's really when it counts. So that's a really good point. But I guess, either way, whether or not they're playing good teams or bad teams, these teams are putting up pretty good numbers. Look at Delaware. They're 2-1. They have 2 shutouts. They lost tonight. They were undefeated going into tonight. So again, they lost 2-1 to Stony Brook tonight. 2 shutouts. They're averaging 2 goals per game. Alexis Montgomery has 2 goals, which leads the CAA. So even though they're not playing phenomenal teams, they're still putting up good numbers.
And I should add that for these teams in the CAA, at least in this women's conference, the skill level apart from these teams is not big. You look at those top 6 teams that made playoffs, only about 3 or 4 wins really separated the bunch. So I don't think that, yes, maybe the worst teams are facing worse teams and the better teams are facing better teams, but it's still a very competitive conference, and it is not something to get worried about, but you're going to need to be ready when conference play comes, because it's not going to be an easy route.
Chris, you are making a mountain out of an anthill right now with this. I'm just going to say
it's early on. Listen, I'm just trying to make something work here.
Listen, is Delaware a fringe contender? Yes, they just missed it last year.
Mm-hmm.
But they're playing easy teams. They're trying to load up, build confidence. They're doing the route of, let me play easy teams, build up player confidence. So when the season comes, we start to get pushed. We can take it a bit. Hofstra's playing, let me get these hard games early, so that when the time comes, it's easier for us. And do look at the top 6 teams where they finished last year. JMU, Hofstra, Northeastern. They're playing ranked opponents because they're thinking, who am I going to face when we reach the women's soccer tournament? Lafayette College or Penn State.
Right,
You're
right.
going to face Penn State. So they're prepping for the Penn States, not the D2 team that rolled up 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's going to pay off in the NCAA tournament for sure.
Excellent point. So bottom line, even though the CAA is upside down right now, it'll be okay. It'll flip.
Give it a month. Give it a month.
I completely agree. All right. Well, thank you, Chris.
Thanks so much for having me on, guys.
Well, Ryan, that about wraps up
Hour
our
flew
hour
by.
of the show. Man,
Yeah.
that felt like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
like
no
always.
kidding.
Well,
I
Ryan,
mean, it's always exciting when you're talking about a team that's going to be so successful this season. I'm confident in this team.
Ryan, they are the most successful fall team, if not the number one team. Now, that's going to do it here. Always a pleasure to host with you, Ryan, but that'll do it here for this hour of the Fall Sports Preview Show. Many thanks to everyone involved in this broadcast. Engineering this evening was the always stunning Eliza Kravitz. Taking us beyond the pride was the athletic Chris Detweiler. Bringing us around the world of sports was the talented Andrew Bacigalupo. And assisting the engineer was the fun group of Matt Kaminsky, Quentin Thorne, and Eddie Fitz. Stay tuned as we continue our State of the Program Fall Sports Preview Show here with men's soccer coming up in the next hour. For my gratuitous co-host and friend Ryan Yee, I'm Max Sacco. As always, goodbye and good night, Long Island.
Proudly broadcasting from the Richard Philip Cavallaro Studio.
WRHU.
Hempstead.
You discovered.
A cornerstone of the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication.
WRHU.
Hello, everybody, and welcome inside the fourth hour of our Fall Sports Preview Show 2019. This hour, myself, my co-host Andrew Murdolo, we're going to be talking some men's soccer action. Andrew, just how are you? How excited are you to be here?
I'm doing all right, Kenny. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about men's soccer this year. It should have an interesting year coming forward. Tough, heartbreaking end to last year, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I'm ready to see this rejuvenated men's soccer team really go after it this year.
I agree. I mean, I think that they lost some big pieces in the offseason, which, again, we'll get to. But I am excited for the future of this men's soccer program. And we got to see a little glimpse into the future last night when we called the season opener at Hofstra Soccer Stadium. It was a 1-0 victory over Fordham. And I think it was quickly before we get to it, later on in this hour, I thought it was a pretty impressive win. And it seemed like the games that they were winning last year, it seemed like the team didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, it just seemed like everything fell into place the way it had throughout CAA play last year and even throughout most of that CAA tournament to start. Alex Ashton, as good as usual, pitching another shutout. Of course, we remember that 8-game shutout streak he had going last season. And then on top of that, a lot of different players stepped up this year. And we'll talk about some of the departures. But you saw in that game, Hendrik Hebeker had a fantastic game, ended up scoring the lone goal of the game, which helped put the Pride over the top. But also, just offensively, he seemed to handle the ball. He seemed to be a lot more cooler out there and calmer than we've seen him in the past. So you love to see him do some good things there for the Pride.
And Coach Nuttall, after the game, when we spoke to him, was really high on Hendrik Hebeker and said he almost wasn't surprised at the way that Hendrik Hebeker played in that game. He hadn't scored a goal all year last year, but was really impressed with the way he played. So he's a big component of the 2019 team. But first, let's take a little look back at the 2018 season for the Hofstra Pride. A really impressive overall campaign for Hofstra. We'll talk about the shutout streak they went on earlier in the season, but basically what happened in 2018, if you missed it for the Pride, 10-6-5 overall, 5-2-1 in conference, and dominant, as always, on their home pitch, Hofstra Soccer Stadium. Heartbreaking defeat in the conference finals to JMU.
It was a rough one.
Yeah, really tough, and a 1-1 draw that ended up them losing in penalty kicks. So a really disappointing season, but a great campaign in 2018, I think, overall for Hofstra.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this Hofstra Pride team had all sorts of fantastic players, a lot of players claiming CAA accolades as well at the end of last season. But you saw some of these games they played last season. They had some tough opponents. Ohio State came in. You talk about Syracuse, Seton Hall, even Harvard making its way through the doors. And, of course, the yearly game against Stony Brook, which everybody loves so much. But you kind of saw once September came around for the Pride, they really got into it offensively, and they really just got into it in a mode of just high-quality play that they were able to produce game in and game out, and every second they were on the field. And good part of that, we'll start offensively, is a guy like Matthew Vowinkle. Led the team, with 8 goals a season ago, and now comes back this year only as a junior, so he's got 2 years left of eligibility, which for the Pride they must love, especially this year. And he's going to be likely the leader offensively with the offensive charge this year. He had a fantastic touch pass in the game we called last night that really opened up some nice offensive opportunity, and you want to see him continue to pursue that this year.
And you mentioned some regular season opponents. I want to touch on really a lot of the regular season, what occurred for this Hofstra Pride club, and that was the shutout streak. It broke Hofstra records. It was an NCAA record at the time, a shutout streak. It was the longest in the nation for a bit. I believe it was approaching 400 minutes. But basically, Hofstra went from September 6th to October 6th without conceding a goal. And for people who don't know, the men's soccer season's only about 2 months long, give or take, maybe a week or two. So they basically went half their season, half their games without conceding a goal. It was a tremendous 8-game streak that they went on. It all began with Seton Hall on September 6th. And I think that when we talked about, kind of the MO they played with last year, it was just this hounding defensive style, this style where Hofstra just doesn't give up. The assistant coaches said to us that they're a team that loves a battle, and I think that when you have a shutout streak that long, it's so reminiscent of a team that loves to go to battle every game.
Absolutely, and the best part is it gave them a great start in conference play because they started 4-0 immediately in conference play. That puts you in front of the 8 ball when it comes to standings-wise, and they were eventually able to secure that spot. However, they would drop, or at least would not be able to win 3 of those next 4, but still 4-0 start was how they wanted to do it, and that shutout streak was really what propelled them to do it. And some of these other players, Alex Ashton, like we mentioned, fantastic run during that stretch, and he was obviously the most key part of all that for the Hofstra Pride. But there were some other big-time players, too, that when you look this season, the Hofstra Pride are going to lose. Thank goodness they get to keep Alex Ashton this year in goal. He's now a graduate. But you look to some of these players, and you start on the back line. A lot lost on the back line. Sean Nealis, of course, has to be the first one that comes up here. An MLS draftee by the New York Red Bulls this past offseason. So he's gone. Coach Nuttall once said he was one of the best, if not the best, defender in all of collegiate soccer. So it's going to be hard to replace someone like that, you'd like to think. But they do have a new player coming in to fill that role, and that would be Frederick Reaper.
Yeah, I think that Reaper is good, and he showed that last night. But when you touch on Sean Nealis, he was named the CAA Defensive Player of the Year last year. He was a guy who was an absolute rock for this Hofstra Pride team on the back end.
Absolutely.
He was a tall guy, 6'4", so he won those aerial battles against his opponents. And he was just so steady, so strong on the back line. And that's, whenever you look at a shutout streak, of course you're going to first turn your attention to the goalkeeper, because that's obviously a big piece of it. And Alex Ashton was fantastic during that shutout streak. But I think that Coach Nuttall, he might have a point when he says that Nealis was the best player in collegiate soccer last season. He was absolutely tremendous, a draftee of the Red Bulls in the second round this year, and has seen some time with them. So I think that it's no surprise that he's gone on to already, see 10 appearances in MLS soccer. He started a game for the Red Bulls, and I think that he's only going to have a brighter future now in collegiate soccer, does Sean Nealis. But there's other guys on the back end, too, that they lost. And I think another one that really comes to mind is Marcus Lindquist. He was a guy out of Norway who was also very steady on that back line for this team last year, and him and Nealis were just an absolute shutdown tandem.
No, absolutely. He was third on the team in points last year. Ended up putting up 7 points and was just a key contributor, key ball distributor, but also on the defensive side. During that shutout streak, he was also a key player that played some stout defense alongside Sean Nealis and was able to hold back some of these attacks from some of these opposing squads. But you take a look at another player that I find interesting on that back end, Jacob Goker, a guy who was a CAA All-Rookie team member a season ago, and now no longer with the program. But again, you lose so much depth on that back end that this year you have to use some of those guys that maybe didn't play as often a season ago, that still may have showed some sparks here and there, that you have to push up now as starters on that back line.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that that's a big area of transition, and it's a key position in soccer because the ability to communicate with your goalkeeper is huge. And we saw last night the fact that the guys really played well together and communicated well was huge. And I think that one other player that we should touch on briefly is Luke Brown. He's obviously no longer with the program. Luke Brown was a guy who was pretty much a rock throughout his, I guess it was 4 years here, or 3 years that he played with this Hofstra Pride program. He was a big piece in the midfield coaching staff, and everyone believes that guys like Petter Solberg, who actually led the team in shots last night, so good sign for the Hofstra Pride, had a really good opportunity to score. He's going to be a guy who can kind of step in the place of Luke Brown, but I think that when you look at Brown, Lindquist, Goker, and Nealis, those are probably what you're looking at as the 4 key losses for this Hofstra Pride program. When it comes to especially defensive play, a little bit on offense with Brown, but I think those are the key components that Hofstra lost. And just to kind of turn our attention briefly before we actually have Jason Siegel on for a sports update in a few minutes. After that shutout streak ended, October 10th, Hofstra falls to Northeastern, followed by a loss to James Madison, two pretty tough teams last year. They won a couple games down the stretch in conference, and then obviously you turned your attention to the CAA tournament. CAA quarterfinals, Hofstra takes down Northeastern 1-0. They beat UNCW in the semifinals 2-1, which was a huge win for this program. Absolutely
UNCW
huge.
went to the national tournament last year, so that was a fantastic victory. And then, of course, they go to JMU, as you were probably going to mention here, Kenny. And penalty kicks is what it comes down to, 1-1 against the best team in the CAA at the time, and, of course, projected to be number 17 this year. And all of a sudden, penalty kicks is where they fall just short and end up losing a heartbreaker to JMU in the CAA championship. So for the Pride, a tough end to their year. But this year, they're rejuvenated. They're ready to go. We talked to all the coaches during the offseason. They're just ready to get back after it, play with a chip on their shoulder heading into 2019.
And you can't touch enough on how resilient that Hofstra Pride team was last year, because in the CAA tournament, the game to UNCW, they conceded the first goal. They came back. Sean Nealis and Luke Brown scored 2 goals to give them the 2-1 victory. And then in that JMU game, despite the fact that they fell in that game, Matthew Vowinkle, they surrendered a goal in the 9th minute to Manuel Ferriol, and then in the 80th minute, Matthew Vowinkle puts one by the goalkeeper, and that was obviously a huge piece to the puzzle there with that Hofstra Pride team, and I think it's why they were so successful last year. They just were able to do a great job of, they were a tough team to play against, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. They absolutely were. We love to see how they play this year. So we'll break down a little bit of what we expect from them this year. We'll also have some interviews with the head coach Richard Nuttall, as well as players Alex Ashton and Matthew Vowinkle. Before we do that, we're going to throw it to Jason Siegel with a sports update.
Thanks, guys. With your Fall Sports Preview Show update, I'm Jason Siegel. The Hofstra Pride field hockey team fell to Wagner 3-0 today. Kira Mordvanov scored twice for Wagner. The Hofstra women's soccer team fell to the Brown University Bears 2-1 tonight. Claire Myers scored the game winner for Brown in the 73rd minute. The Hofstra Pride volleyball team lost in straight sets to 8th-ranked Penn State. The Long Island Ducks also played tonight, defeating the Somerset Patriots 8-5. Over to the big leagues, the New York Yankees fell to the Oakland Athletics 8-2. Luke Voigt had 2 hits tonight for the Yanks in his return from the 10-day injured list. In a corresponding move, the Yankees put Gio Urshela on the IL with a groin injury. Yankees manager Aaron Boone says he expects Urshela to be back soon.
I think Sunday in Boston would be the first day he's eligible, and I'm looking at it as like that's a real possibility. Feels like something that's probably a few days.
In the National League, the Mets lead the Philadelphia Phillies 6-1 in the 9th inning. Todd Frazier hit a 3-run home run to cap a 5-run 8th inning for the Mets. Zach Wheeler allowed 1 run on 7 hits in 6 innings pitched. The U.S. Open tennis tournament continues today with third-round action. On the women's side, 8th-ranked Serena Williams defeated Karolina Muchova 6-3, 6-2, and 2 Americans battled at the Open tonight. 10th-ranked Madison Keys knocked off 20th-ranked Sophia Kenin in 2 sets. And on the men's side, 3rd-ranked Roger Federer won in straight sets against Daniel Evans, and Novak Djokovic won the first set against American Denis Kudya 6-3, and Djokovic leads 4-2 in the second set. With your sports update, I'm Jason Siegel. Now let's go back inside the Fall Sports Preview Show with your hosts Kenny Conrad and Andrew Murdolo.
Welcome back inside the Fall Sports Preview Show right here on WRHU, also streaming on Facebook at WRHU Sports. Myself, Kenny Conrad, alongside Andrew Murdolo. We recapped last season for the Hofstra soccer team, and now we're going to be joined by Hofstra men's soccer coach Richard Nuttall in his 31st season. And Coach, let's recap last season for a quick second. Team finished 10-6-5 and a 5-2-1 record in conference, where you eventually made a run and lost in the championship game in heartbreaking fashion. Can you just take us through what the message was to your team heading back into 2019, to keep their hopes high heading into the offseason?
Yeah, well, I think the guys coming back know the quality of the conference, and just the fact that JMU went into the national quarterfinal shows the quality of what we're about, and but other teams like UNCW and Delaware, and you can name just about every one of them, it's a quality soccer conference. So I think the message that we get to the boys is, look, we didn't quite make it. We were close last year, but close is not good enough, and we've got to work even harder and be even more together. Without being together, we won't achieve what we want to achieve, and it's as simple as that. We've got to do this together as a staff and as a playing staff.
Now, Coach, let's talk about some of your returners this season. And we can start with the all-important position of goalkeeper. Third-team CAA keeper Alex Ashton received another year of eligibility and is primed to follow a season where 9 times he kept a goose egg on the board for the opposition. Can you speak to his talent as a keeper and how crucial his role will be this upcoming season?
Yeah, he's vital. He's a fantastic shot stopper. He's got to improve his distribution, as he did mention himself, and he's aware of that, self-aware. We can rely on him in games. He's positionally he's good, and on crosses he probably needs to do a little bit more, but he's been working on that. Graham Radcliffe has been doing a brilliant job with all the goalkeepers already, and from my point of view, Alex is one of the top 2 or 3 keepers in the league, and maybe the top one at the end of this year, and he's driven. But I want to mention Alex Dudley, who behind him, who's got himself incredibly fit after, it was as a transfer coming in, it was a little bit of an issue. He will say that too, and he's gone away this summer and come back in tremendous tip-top shape. So hopefully he'll push him. He's good with his feet. He's got different characteristics to Alex, but I'm happy with both of them. And we've got a young, talented keeper called Duncan Wegner as well, who's going to push both of them. So we're in a good spot with the goalkeepers, and it's a key position, as you know, in soccer. So from that point of view, we're all set.
And Coach, just following up on that, what's your view of an ideal goalkeeping situation? Having one guy make all the starts, or being able to split time between the 2 keepers?
Yeah, I think it's situational. That's often a word we do use, and generally speaking, though, I would like there to be a number one who's there and he's confident, he knows he's not going to be replaced or removed from the game, and I think that kind of situations helps the player just grow from game to game, and also gives them room to have a little bit of a bad time, 1 or 2 games, and really move forward, knowing that they're the number one keeper. But we've had it in the past where we've alternated a little bit, but I'd rather the number one be the number one, and you show confidence and stick with them when it may be a little bit rough now and again.
Now, on the defensive end, you lose CAA first-teamer Sean Nealis, as well as CAA rookie Jacob Goker, and even veteran Marcus Lindquist. But you still have some solid players on that back end, like a George O'Malley or Storm Strong and even Leonard Seufert. Are you beginning to see this back line build chemistry with each passing practice? And do you believe some of the experience they have can be crucial for them this season?
Yeah, well, I thought Sean Nealis was in the top 2 or 3 defenders in the country in college soccer, and I think it showed that in his rookie year. He's played 7 or 8 times for the Red Bulls, which I'm very proud of. He's a great young man. But the culture of the programme is that you expect to lose people each year. And the good news is we've got quite a few returning between Lena and George O'Malley and 1 or 2 others. That the fact is that they understand what they've got to do to be successful, and they can hopefully pass it on to the 1 or 2 young lads coming in. And it's a culture of defending, and we're proud of the way we defend, not only as a back line but as a unit. So from that point of view, we return a lot of the players who were very successful last year. And I believe we can be the same. Sean's, there's not going to be another Sean Nealis, but there's other players that can come in and with their own personality, own style, and hopefully can fit into how we defend as a unit.
And Coach, now let's turn our attention to the midfield. You've been noted to work a system built for 2-way players who can both play offensively and drop back and play defensively. Can you just talk about some of the more dynamic players you have in the midfield?
Well, we do like to keep it fluid, and plenty of rotation in midfield, and any one-time people can step up. I mean, the captain, Luca Tausch, has got to be mentioned. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He's all over the field, and we have to sometimes restrict him positionally and to just do his job because he wants to be all things to all people. But he's one to look out for, returning. We've got Oscar Ramsey, who's tremendously skillful, and then we've got a young lad called Stephen Mason coming in, Joe Wright. Then we've got Storm Strongin and Ebica, both very, very good players. I could go down the list, to be honest. There's so many good players, especially in the midfield. So from my point of view, I think Lucas is a man that probably is the driving force, but he's just one cog in the machine, and I believe he'll make other people better, and he's important to us. But if we don't have him for an injury, say, we've got quality in all areas in the midfield.
Now, Coach, this offseason, Luke Brown leaves after being one of your top offensive producers a season ago. Other than CAA third-teamer Matthew Vowinkle, who do you see stepping up possibly to fill Brown's role offensive production-wise in 2019?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Vowinkle's got potential to score a lot of goals. He's born to score, and maybe he'll be slightly more the focus now. Luke's not here, and then on top of that, we've got Hebeker and Storm who will play outside midfield who can contribute. The young lad who's come in as a transfer from South Carolina, Petter Solberg, looks sharp, and then we've a load of young lads who could step up. And we're in the tired stage of pre-season, but the guys are showing well. And once the tiredness goes away, the aches and pains go away, I believe we've got 2 or 3 young lads who might show as well. From Etienne Botti and Jason Ramirez and a couple of other local lads. Roman eventually will be very good. He's struggling a little bit on the fitness side now and the sharpness, but with many players who can step in. Young Dylan Rockensis as a potential as a forward and a defender. So just lots of young lads who could step up.
And Coach, this season you have 9 freshmen on the team. Are there any that you feel can play big roles here in 2019?
Yeah, I mean, Frederick's father played in the Premier League for West Ham and then played for Celtic and was a coach at the highest level, so he's obviously got a great pedigree. He was playing a good level in Denmark. But there's other lads, young Shane Salmon, left-footer from local lad who could do very, very well. And as I say, Stephen Mason, Roman Guardado, Jason Ramirez, Jonas Jacobson's another one who could do a wonderful job, left-footed defender. And then we've got Storm's younger brother, Stone, who's a bit of a machine, and he's very, very fit, and I think he's learnt a lot from his brother, and he could step up and help. So there's not, apart from Frederick and possibly Stefan, the others have all got tremendous potential, but those 2 could possibly step in this year.
Now, Coach, you take a look at the CAA preseason poll as well as the U.S. soccer poll, and it seems like James Madison looks to be the team to beat coming into the CAA here in 2019, but how does the rest of the conference seem to shape up in your eyes?
Every year you get a surprise, that's for sure, in our conference, but UNCW, Delaware, I mean, you can go on, they're all quality. If we're not at our best in any one CAA game, we'll get beaten. That shows the quality. There's some tremendous coaches, and I believe maybe 3 or 4 of our teams will get to the NCAAs this year, and I believe JMU could do even better next year. So that shows the strength of the conference. JMU are a very, very good team, and we know the players well, and they've got a lot returning. So that's going to be a challenge. But pick any one of the teams could surprise you because of the quality of the coaching and the strength of the schools academically. It's a great place to be as a student athlete, as a CAA. So I'm proud of that fact. But watch UNCW. That's my semi-dark horse coming through.
Coach, this is your 31st season with the program, and you've won 4 CAA championships and are the winningest coach in program history. What do you think needs to change from a season ago for the Hofstra Pride to take home their 2nd championship in the CAA in 5 years?
I think not the fact change. I think we've got to stay a little bit lucky with injuries, which you always have to do to win a championship. You've got to get a little bit lucky with injuries. We have to remain together as a coaching staff and a playing staff and be as one. And the personalities of the players and the coaches, I don't see that being a problem. I think how we put the team together, the mix of the team, the ingredients, we've got to get right as a coaching staff, because we've got a lot of good ingredients, but we've got to make the nice pie, if you understand. So I think it's just about coming together, and we can be very successful.
All right, Coach Nuttall, thank you for your time. Congrats on the win last night, and good luck going forward throughout the rest of the season.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Good questions. I appreciate the good questions. I do.
And again, that was Hofstra men's soccer coach Richard Nuttall in his 31st season. Always great catching up with Coach Nuttall, and I think that he had a lot of insightful things to say there, Andrew. I think the most interesting, or one of the things that really popped off to me as something that was interesting, was how high his praise were for a guy like Frederick Reaper. I think that was something that really stood out to me, and just how he feels pretty confident in this team here moving into 2019.
Yeah, absolutely. Him and even the other coaches, the assistant coaches, talked about it with us, but they've talked to us about Reaper before, and they said, yes, they expect some huge things out of this guy. And when you look at him on the field, Kenny, we watched him last night. He is a tall guy. I mean, he is very, very tall. And you put him in the box specifically to make sure he can head a ball out of the way here or there and clear it out of the box. He did so last night. He saved a goal doing so last night, too, which was the most unbelievable part. But they are very high on him heading into this 2019 season for the rest of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very fair to be high in a guy like that. They like the fact that he's played professional soccer before, or in a men's league, over back in his home country. So before we get too in-depth with the players, let's just kind of preview this season as a whole, what we expect from the Hofstra Pride. First, I think maybe we could start with, I don't know, you want to start with the schedule?
Yeah, why not?
I feel like that's probably a good place to start. So obviously Hofstra last night, we talked about it, 1-0 victory over Fordham. And before we get to the schedule, let's break that down a little bit. Hofstra played a really solid defensive game, which is something that we've really become accustomed to. Alex Ashton looked good, the defense looked good, and a timely goal on a penalty kick for Hendrik Hebeker.
Yeah, no doubt. And for the Hofstra Pride, as we mentioned a little bit at the beginning of this hour, guys like Hebeker, guys like even Stone Strongen were really making a nice push offensively. Even Adam Seville at times is coming up for the Hofstra Pride and making a nice push. And these are guys that you like to see coming in and out because, again, Storm Strongen slowly was becoming a guy you could rely on offensively last year. He's been taking steps forward. Hendrik Hebeker finally tallying his first career goal. You can see his offense blossoming, or offensive skill blossoming, rather. And a guy like Adam Seville, who has not been or wasn't healthy a season ago. Now, finally, when he's healthy, not only offensively, but defensively, he was tenacious yesterday, and he was trying to force all sorts of mistakes by Fordham, and actually did on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are definitely some guys you hit the nail on the head, and when you look at Hebeker and Strongen, for this Hofstra Pride team, they're key players. It's no secret that a lot of Hofstra's offense is driving down the wings with speed, trying to get those crosses into the box, trying to put pressure on the opposing team to defend crosses. And when you have a guy playing like Hebeker did last night, where he was dribbling circles around some of the defenders for that Fordham team, and even Storm Strongen was pushing the play a little bit with his speed. I was impressed by them. I was also impressed by the freshman Jason Ramirez getting some crucial time on the wings towards the end of the game. He is one of the fastest human beings I've ever seen.
He would run from about the middle of the field and come to the near sideline in about 2-3 seconds and would be able to get a ball, keep it from going out of play. He saved a lot of saved a lot of kicks from Hofstra going out of play, and he was able to retain some of them. Not to mention offensively, we saw at the end of the game when the Fordham Rams brought up their goalkeeper Weiss to try to play a little bit of offense. He was sprinting back against Weiss at the end of that game. He almost ended up beating him in a foot race. Had he not been tripped up, he would have had a wide open net and a possible second goal for the Pride, first for him on the season. But nonetheless, his speed is absolutely unbelievable out there.
He was somebody who really stood out to me last night. Just had to touch on that. Oscar Ramsey also played pretty well, got some time. He's a guy who's been with the program for quite a number of years now. So this weekend, Hofstra will go on to face UMBC on Sunday in Baltimore. And then, Andrew, very early on in the season is the biggest matchup on Hofstra's schedule, and that's JMU next Friday in Harrisonburg. JMU they're ranked in the country this year, I believe, at number 17. They're picked number 1 atop the CAA preseason poll. That game is huge for Hofstra, and I think it makes these first 2 games even more important for the Pride because they are just tune-ups to get ready for Harrisonburg next Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. And the UMBC game is just going to play a small role as, okay, it's going to be a barometer game. So how well do you play here, and how can you take the energy you use in this game and take whatever you figured in this game and move forward with it? But that JMU game, Kenny, I mean, that's been circled on their calendar right after that last penalty kick was converted by JMU. They had that circled, and they are ready to look for revenge in Harrisonburg. Now the question is, how are they going to match up against JMU and Harrisonburg? Because, listen, the Hofstra Pride have some fantastic players on the team. JMU also brings back a lot of talent, so I can't wait to see that game. That game's going to be an unbelievable one.
Yeah, that's a huge game. They're ranked number 1 in the CAA. I think another team that everyone also should have circled on their radar this year for the Hofstra Pride is UNCW. I believe they finished 1 vote behind JMU for first place in the preseason poll. So UNCW, another huge game for Hofstra. The two teams will match up on Saturday, October 5th, and that game will be at 12 o'clock at Hofstra Soccer Stadium. So that's yet another big game. Key component I want to talk about the schedule this year for Hofstra, and Coach Nuttall touched on it in his interview, was getting more home games.
Yeah.
Hofstra is absolutely dominant at home. 15 of 16 seasons since Hofstra Soccer Stadium was built, they have had a winning record on home turf. That is very impressive, and moving that number of home games up from 6 to 7 to now 10 this season is absolutely crucial, I think, for this Hofstra Pride team.
You talk about home pitch advantage for the Hofstra Pride. That is the definition right there. Again, 15 of 16, like you mentioned, Kenny, winning seasons on that turf. But not to mention, you get more games at home this year than you've gotten in however many years. This helps you not only as a team who, gets comfortable playing around your home fans, but also late in the year, we got to do all that traveling. Maybe your legs aren't as worn out as they might have been had you had to travel a little bit more. So for the Hofstra Pride, this is just a win-win all around, and hopefully they can get some wins on top of that.
And down the stretch, Hofstra will play each of its final 4 games at home. They'll play Udell, Binghamton, Northeastern, and Columbia all at home. 5 of their last 6 as well are at home. They have Seton Hall here on home turf. So I think that is something that's really crucial for this Hofstra team. A couple non-conference teams on the slate that are pretty tough. Stony Brook is always a pretty tough match for Hofstra. They have Albany on there. Seton Hall, a team that they pretty frequently play. Binghamton and Columbia.
You even look to Virginia Tech
Yeah.
back in September. In fact, that comes right after they take on JMU. Same place, Harrisonburg, but it's a neutral site matchup against Virginia Tech. But, these schools from the ACC and the Big Ten, when they come up against the Hofstra Pride, it's always an interesting game to watch, and it also helps the Pride realize where they are, not only in the CA, but among the national ranks. If they can take down a team like Virginia Tech, like the Hokies, this could be an interesting year for the Pride, and this could be some sort of year where CAA may not just be the ceiling for them.
Right, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. Obviously, this is a team that after the year they had last year, they have their sights set on the NCAA tournament. Obviously, a CAA title is huge, but this is a team with even, I think, bigger expectations than that, and I think that when you play those kind of barometer games, if you will, against a team like Virginia Tech, you're right, it shows how can we compete against nationally ranked or, teams that are looked at very highly around the nation. Coach Nuttall likes to schedule these games pretty frequently. Last year, I remember early in the year, they played Colgate, which was a ranked opponent, about number 23. So he likes to schedule these tough matches to open the season or earlier in the year, because when you face a good team, even if you don't pick up the victory, you sit back and you say, okay, they exposed our weaknesses. What are our weaknesses? And at that point, you have a month or two before the CAA tournament to say, this is what we need to work on. Because sometimes when you play, lower level teams than the CAA, you might not get a chance to see those weaknesses. When you go up against tough competition, it gives you every opportunity to.
Yeah, no doubt. For the Hofstra Pride, early on in their schedule, this is where the beef comes in. This is where the Virginia Techs and the JMUs come in. And even their favorite rival, or their arch rival, you might even say here on Long Island, Stony Brook, the Battle of Long Island. That's always a great game every year, because these two teams always battling A, for bragging rights, but B, trying to put last year's efforts to shame. And for the Hofstra Pride this year, again, they're going to want to go out there and stick it to Stony Brook.
So let's take a look at a couple of key components to this Hofstra Pride team. We touched on guys like Vowinkle, Hebeker, guys like Alex Ashton, who will have him and Matthew Vowinkle coming up in a little bit. But I want to talk about the team's 2 captains this year. Neither of them are seniors. George O'Malley, a guy that comes from Hofstra's back line, and Luca Tausch, who Coach Nuttall described as being a guy who was kind of like an engine out there in the midfield. I think that they are 2 pieces who maybe aren't the most talked about on this team, but both on and off the pitch are very crucial for Coach Nuttall's team here in 2019.
Yeah, and George O'Malley was another guy a season ago on that back end that really stood tough for the Hofstra Pride this year, being named the captain. And we saw him also make a fantastic defensive play in that game last night as well. He's a guy the Pride are really looking to for a little bit more veteran leadership between the 2 captains. But Luca Tausch last year made the CAA all-rookie team as well as Jacob Goker, as we mentioned earlier. But he is a guy now that, going forward, the Pride expect a lot lot out of him, not only from production standards, but leadership standards. It's going to be interesting to see how these two fare now as captains going forward.
And another guy, their backup in goal, I think, is always crucial to touch on because you never know when he may be called into service. Alex Dudley, the transfer from St. John's, who redshirted his last season there. I think Coach Nuttall touched on him a bit, and we'll get Alex Ashton's take on him as well. Alex Dudley is a guy who, maybe not this year because Ashton is there, but when Ashton moves on, can be a key piece, and maybe even this season for the Hofstra Pride.
Yeah, we've heard he's one of the more competitive players on that roster, so it'll be interesting to see if he gets some playing time this season for the Hofstra Pride. But if not, still Hofstra with some nice depth at goalkeeper for emergency purposes.
And again, the Pride 1-0 on the season. Their next match will come at UMBC in Baltimore, Maryland this coming Sunday at 7 o'clock. Going to be a real exciting season for this Hofstra Pride team. Coming up, we're going to have a package done by our own Tyler Martineau. But first, let's have a sports break with Jason Siegel.
Thanks, guys. The Hofstra Pride field hockey team fell to Wagner 3-0 today. Wagner was led by Kira Mordvanov with 2 goals. The Hofstra women's soccer team fell to the Brown University Bears 2-1 tonight. Claire Meyer scored the game winner for Brown in the 73rd minute. The Hofstra Pride volleyball team lost in 3 sets to 8th-ranked Penn State. The Long Island Ducks defeated the Somerset Patriots 8-5 tonight. And over to the big leagues, the New York Yankees lost to the Oakland Athletics 8-2. Luke Voigt had 2 hits tonight for the Yanks in his return from the 10-day injured list. In a corresponding move, the Yankees put Gio Urshela on the IL with a groin injury. Yankees manager Aaron Boone says he expects Urshela to be back soon.
I think Sunday in Boston would be the first day he's eligible, and I'm looking at it as like that's a real possibility. Feels like something that's probably a few days.
Philadelphia Phillies 11-5 in the 9th inning. The Mets scored 5 runs in the 8th inning and 5 in the 9th inning. Todd Frazier hit a 3-run home run in each of those innings to lead the offense. On the mound, Zach Wheeler allowed 1 run on 7 hits in 6 innings pitched for the quality start. The U.S. Open tennis tournament continues today with 3rd-round action. On the women's side, 8th-ranked Serena Williams defeated Karolina Muchova 6-3, 6-2, and 2 Americans battled tonight as 10th-ranked Madison Keys knocked off 20th-ranked Sophia Kenin in 2 sets. And on the men's side, 3rd-ranked Roger Federer won in straight sets against Daniel Evans, and Novak Djokovic won the first 2 sets against American Denis Kudya 6-4, 6-3. With your sports update, I'm Jason Siegel. Now let's go back inside the Fall Sports Preview Show with your hosts Kenny Conrad and Andrew Murdolo.
And we are back here inside the Locker Room's 2019 Fall Sports Preview Show on 88.7 FM WRHU, also streaming live on WRHU.org, the WRHU app, and WRHU Sports on Facebook. Andrew Murdolo and Kenny Conrad here breaking down the Hofstra men's soccer team as we look ahead to their 2019 campaign, which of course did get kicked off with a 1-0 win against Fordham last night. Again, we want to extend a thank you to Jason Siegel for that sports update. In a few minutes, we're going to get to talk with Alex Ashton and Matthew Vowinkle of the Hofstra men's soccer team. But first, we have a nice little package put together here regarding the men's soccer team by our very own Johnny Rupp, Vinny Laspinuso, and Melissa Wamp, as well as Eddie Gardner. So without further ado, here it is as we hype up the 2019 Hofstra men's soccer season.
This is Lindquist. And the save. And with that, James Madison is the 2018 CAA Tournament champions.
After falling to James Madison University on penalties in the 2018 CAA title game, the Hofstra Pride's men's soccer team looked to get back there, and this time to punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament.
The Pride returned 2 players who captured all CAA third-team honors in goaltender Alex Ashton.
Metzler's going to take a shot, and it's a save for Ashton as he hangs on to it, going to his knees.
Phoenix send it in the air, and it's sent forward. The Phoenix with the strike, but Ashton saves it with his feet. Alex Ashton, 1-on-1, kicks it out of bounds on the far side.
And forward Matthew Vowinkle
Strongen over the ball, 20 yards out, going to swing it in with the right foot. Met by the head of Bowinkle, into the back of the net. The second of the game for Matthew Bowinkle, 6th of the season.
However, the Pride will have to compensate for the graduation of defender Sean Nealis, who was the 2018 CAA Defensive Player of the Year. There are plenty of young faces to be excited about, as forward and midfielder Luka Tausch earned CAA All-Rookie Team honors just a season ago. Richard Nuttall enters his 31st season as the head coach of the Pride and hopes to lead the team to their 5th CAA title under his leadership. There are plenty of reasons to be excited about this upcoming season for the winningest coach in program history.
I think the message that we get to the boys is, look, we didn't quite make it. We were close last year, but close is not good enough, and we've got to work even harder and be even more together. Without being together, we won't achieve what we want to achieve, and it's as simple as that. We've got to do this together as a staff and as a playing staff.
One thing's for sure, the 2019 Hofstra Pride men's soccer team are about to make sure this season doesn't end the same way as last year. For WRHU Sports, I'm Vinny Laspinuso.
And again, a special thank you to our own Vinny Laspinuso, Johnny Rupp, and Eddie Gardner for putting that package together. Without further ado, let's move on to our interview with two Hofstra Pride soccer players, two key components of this team, Matthew Vowinkle and Alex Ashton. Guys, last season obviously ends in heartbreaking fashion. How much did being so close to capturing CAA title help motivate you this offseason and heading into 2019?
Yeah, I think a lot of the returning players definitely still feel that. Every time they play, every time they wake up, they're still very motivated to train and get better. We knew we were so close last year. We trained so hard, we worked so hard. We had a great weekend away in that CAA tournament. And coming back from 1-0 down to make it 1-1, I think we all genuinely thought we were going to go on and win it. So it was definitely a tough pill to swallow, but I think it can definitely help us this year if we use it right.
Yeah, I think going off what Alex said, it was a tough weekend, but we all pushed through, and I think coming back this year, we're all ready to go. We're all fighting for that one extra step that we need. We're all training as hard as we possibly can to get to that one extra step, and hopefully we can get to where we need to be this year.
Now, can you guys give us a feel of what it was like during that shutout streak you put together? How was it feeling that you guys were almost unbeatable and almost impenetrable defensively and having so much success down that stretch?
Yeah, I think we were all buying in to what the coaches were saying. We do that every game anyway, every training session, but you could tell there was a very much a togetherness about the team throughout all of last year, but especially during that 8-game or so shutout streak. We were all playing very well. Everyone, even if they weren't necessarily a defending player, they'd come back and make sacrifices for the team just to keep that clean sheet, keep the results coming in. Obviously, Sean Nealis did very well last year, but I think George O'Malley did very well as well. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, as well as some other defenders as well. But I think, yeah, the team definitely bought into what Stephen Roach was saying, and his defensive game plan was definitely on point.
Yeah, I would say just about the same. As much as it is a shutout coming from Alex, coming from George, any of that back line, it's also coming from the rest of the team. It's not just them, and we all, as Alex said, bought in last year, and I think Stephen Roach has helped immensely with everything that's been going on.
And guys, looking ahead to this season, obviously JMU in a couple Fridays, maybe the one you have circled on your calendars, but how do you guys feel about the rest of the schedule this season, and which matchups are you most excited for?
Well, first of all, I would say definitely that whole weekend, the JMU game, the Virginia Tech game. I know Virginia Tech's a big game. And also, I would say just home opener, starting on the right foot against Fordham and get the season flying from there.
Yeah, same. Obviously, like we pointed out, that weekend's definitely a big one for us. Anyone that's in our conference, I'm always excited to play because we know who we're playing against. We obviously competitive within the teams in our conference. Traveling away, we go to Charleston as well. I enjoyed that last time, but yeah, anyone in our conference especially, I really look forward to playing those games.
Now, guys, it's early on here, but are there guys that have stood out to you so far in preseason workouts that we should really be keying on as breakout players this upcoming season, maybe other than yourselves?
Well, first of all, I would just say that it may not be the only the players that come from 2018 to 2019, but definitely the new players that have come in. I mean, they've helped us a lot, whether it's new starting players or new players that are helping during practice. A whole bunch of the new kids that have come in, the Long Island local kids, whether it's international, whatever it is, I would just say big switch from 2018 to 2019 season. I mean, I know some of them will probably grab those starting positions. Some of them will definitely help out in practices, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing we've all said about this year, especially compared to last year, is we've got a lot of depth in the squad. The new players coming in, they're ready to play. They're ready to compete for spots, which is good because it keeps everyone on their toes. I think obviously some players that we've seen more closely over the summer who've been nearby, some have been further away. I know Oscar Ramsey, Adam Saville, they've been working hard for their respective teams and coming back through injury. They're very good foundation players for our team. Luca Tausch, obviously, very good player for our team as well. He really cares about this program. And Alex Dudley, goalkeeper, I know he's been working hard over his fitness over the summer, and we've been talking about it day in, day out, and a lot of the guys are inspired by those guys. So, yeah, definitely a hunger has come back this year with a lot of the players, and the new guys are bringing that on board as well.
Alex, let's turn our focus over to you. Coming from Telford, England, here to America, Hempstead, New York, what was the transition like from English to American soccer, if any, and what helped you adjust to living and playing here in America?
Yeah, I was playing for a team back home in England. Unfortunately, didn't manage to get a contract with them, so I was looking elsewhere, coming to the United States. And then one place that popped out the most was Hofstra. Obviously, it's a great place for soccer. It's a great location in general, and fantastic academics. The coaches, obviously, from England, we had Gary Book at the time, but obviously Richie here, and Graham Radcliffe. They helped me to adjust to living in the States. Had a lot of players back from England as well on the team back then, and we've kept that throughout as well. So that definitely helped. Having people who've sort of been there, done that in the transition, that definitely helped. So that was a massive part of it.
Now, Alex, as a goalkeeper, obviously from the naked eye, it's a much different position than any other one on the pitch. But can you tell us what personally goes into becoming as good a goalkeeper as you are?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of details. I think a lot of people who don't know soccer as much, they might think, oh, you just have to catch the ball or save it. There's a lot of different things that go into it, footwork, positioning. But one of the biggest things is also communication with the team. A lot of the time, like I might get credit for that 8-game shutout streak with Neelis and George as well, but we did very well as a whole team. But that would come from great communication between the three of us and the rest of the team. If our communication's on point, I wouldn't have a shot to save, which is more ideal because then I won't have a goal to let in. So communication's definitely a massive thing. Working on a defensive shape with Stephen Roach and Sean Foster has definitely been a big part of last season, and I hope it will continue this season as well.
And Alex, the team had a couple of big-time defenders move on and graduate from last season, but how do you feel about the defense in front of you in 2019?
Yeah, we got Frederick Reaper. He's a very good player. He's a tall kid. I don't know how tall he is, but very tall. Where's he from? Is he from Denmark? Yeah, he's a very good player. Really enjoy playing with him. He looks calm, comfortable on the ball. So I'm looking forward to possibly playing with him. Obviously, George, he's a solid player as well. I've played a lot with him with teams over the summer while I've been here in the States, and obviously the last 2 years. So I think we've got a good bond, we've got a good connection as a defender and goalkeeper. So I'm looking forward to seeing those two and seeing whoever else fills in for us. That'll be good.
Now, Matt, let's turn it over to you. Much like Alex, you earned third-team CAA honors just a season ago as a sophomore forward. And with that, you found the back of the net 8 times, which was tied for 4th in the CAA, quadrupling your goal totals from the previous season. What did you pick up or adapt to along the way that caused your production to increase so much from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, I would say just kind of becoming more comfortable with the team, mentally, physically, whatever it may be. But the team and the players around just definitely welcomed a lot better when we started this past season, and it was easier for me to get going. Once I kind of got a few, it was easier to get a few more. And I mean, it's not always just about me, but it can be about the rest of the team and how the ball's played into the box or whatever it is, and just some great service from whoever, maybe Storm on the wing or Hendrick on the other side, and it was just good to watch, and I had fun because I scored a lot of goals.
And now, Matt, is there anything in particular you worked on this offseason or maybe sought to improve on to prepare for your third season?
Yeah, I would say just kind of more of a repetition kind of stance in front of the goal, getting my players to help me, Storm, Hendrick, a new kid, Petter, who's coming in, just getting in front of goal, finishing as many times as possible, and just kind of also, as Alex said, getting in the gym, fitness, lifting weights with Justin, whatever it may be. I mean, anything I can get my hands on, it just helped.
Now, Matt, yourself and Luke Brown seem to be the team's Batman and Robin in 2018, but now he has moved on elsewhere. So do you see yourself as the player to take over the offensive responsibility in 2019?
Not really. I mean, most of my goals come from other players making things happen for me. I mean, it would be a big help for anybody else to come and kind of help me out. But I really think it's more of the service in the box, who else is around me, whatever happens there. And it's not really just about me. It's just about how the team gets going and how much energy we have and how many balls we can get into the box, because that's pretty much what it's all about. I'll finish it off from there.
And guys, before we let you go, we like to do this with all the players we have on for our preview shows. We'll ask you a couple quick questions about your teammates in the lightning round. Just first off, who is the funniest on the team?
I'd say fellow goalkeeper Alex Dudley. He's.
I would agree.
Yeah.
All right, who's the loudest on the team?
I would say Alex.
On the field, me. Yeah. Off the field, I'd probably say Oscar. Yeah.
Who's the most talented or toughest competitor on the team aside from yourselves?
Ooh.
There's a lot of toughest.
Well, toughest competitor for me, I would say probably Frederick, new freshman coming in. He's center back. I'm going up against him. Definitely Frederick.
Yeah, I'd say Luca Tau. She's definitely up there. He's always working hard. You can never get anything past him without him trying. So you've always got to work hard with him in practice or in games.
All right, now pre-game, you guys are trying to get in your element. You guys are trying to get hyped up for the match to come. What are you listening to? What are you bumping in the Beats headphones?
For me, a little bit of everything. I mean, slow, fast, rap, whatever it is. I mean, whatever kind of just eases me into the moment, I guess.
Yeah, with me, I'll listen to a bunch of different things. Sometimes rap, sometimes sort of more European electric dance music, more that kind of stuff. There's quite a mixture of music tastes on the team, obviously, with us being from all over the place. So that's definitely interesting in the locker room. Yeah.
And finally, fill in the blank. Hofstra takes home the CAA championship in 2019 if
we're all bought in, just as we both said the whole time, if everyone buys in and everyone works hard, I don't see anybody stopping us.
Yeah, I'd agree. You took the words out of my mouth, yeah.
All right, so that was goalkeeper Alex Ashton and forward Matthew Vowinkle of the 2019 Hofstra Pride men's soccer team. So thank you to them for taking some time to speak with us about what they expect to do in the season ahead. And now, Kenny, it's time to bring on Justin Huntsman with a Beyond the Pride segment here as we kind of preview what's to come for the Pride in 2019.
Well, thanks, Andrew. Before we talk about the Pride, let's talk about the CAA as a whole. Preseason poll has come out, and James Madison was picked to repeat as the CAA champ. They are currently ranked nationally 17th overall. They did lose their opener tonight at FAU 1-0, but they have some notable players on the first team. Manuel Fierro was recognized as the CAA preseason midfielder of the year, and then TJ Bush was honored as the preseason goalkeeper of the year. Ferriol had 9 goals and 5 assists in the 2018 campaign, and TJ Bush had 13 shutouts last year. But not by a landslide where they voted as the #1 team in the CAA. UNCW only finished a point behind. So it's going to be a very interesting CAA year with Hofstra finishing 3rd. And Hofstra, the only person that was seen on their first team was Matthew Vowinkle. When we talk about the Pride, what do they need to do to kind of put themselves in that upper echelon?
Well, I mean, I think that they are kind of in that upper echelon, but I think that when you look at individual talents, maybe Hofstra doesn't have as many guys recognized because maybe not as many guys are household names as Ferriol and TJ Bush. I mean, Alex Ashton is right behind Bush, in my opinion, in goalkeepers in the CAA. And when you look at a guy like Frederick Reaper, he might be on a CAA team next year, heading into the season. And a guy like Hendrik Hebeker could open some eyes. So I think that Hofstra maybe just lost some guys who were household names, and that's maybe why they don't get as much recognition here.
I think for the Hofstra Pride this year, the key is to keep winning, because you saw JMU had those bigger wins down the stretch, had a couple more at the end of the year, and you saw a lot more players ending up on those first, second, third team, even all rookie team honoree lists last year. And those are the guys now that are coming back. We're all kind of looking at them saying, okay, well, these are the guys we have to watch out for. But listen, the Hofstra Pride has some dangerous players of their own. We talked about Reaper, George O'Malley. Not a lot of people talk about those guys, even Storm Strong. And those guys, if they step up this year, even more than they did last year, this could be a good year for the Pride. And this could be a year where they could really compete up there with JMU and possibly even overtake them.
Well, speaking of the Pride, they're only one of 2 teams so far to start the campaign 1-0, them and Elon. Everybody else is 0-1 right now. Do you guys put any weight into the early non-conference schedule right now? I mean, JMU, especially JMU losing to Florida Atlantic, not a ranked team with such high hopes. Do you think that maybe too much was put into last season on JMU, and maybe they're not going to be the same team that they were?
You almost think that if Hofstra doesn't knock out UNCW in the semifinals, maybe UNCW is the #1 team here in the preseason poll. So, I do put a little bit of stock into it, especially that loss to FAU. I think that that's a little bit telling about JMU, and maybe they're going to have to work a little bit harder to get back to where they were last season. Other than that, games here and there, I'm not really going to put too much stock in, but I will be keeping an eye on JMU, especially after that first loss.
Justin, I'm going to straight out tell you no, because look at how the CAA ranked up last year. Drexel went 9-5-3 overall and did not make the CAA tournament because they went 2-5-1 in conference. You flip to the other side, there was a team in none other than the Delaware Blue Hens, who went 5-11-1 overall, but made the conference tournament at 4-3-1 in conference. So no matter what you do in the early season, it doesn't matter until you get to the CAA. That's where the big things are won, big prizes are won.
He's coming for your head, Justin.
Jeez. A little hot. All right, I have one more question. Since you want to talk about the conference, Andrew, what is the likelihood you think Hofstra can win the CAA this year?
What, you want to put like a number on it? You want me to say because I think it's a pretty solid percentage chance. I mean, UNCW lost a couple of big time players this past offseason. Even JMU lost its share of players. Just for the Hofstra this year, like I said, they have to be offensively aggressive against this JMU team that was #1 defensively last year. I think if we can see some of the offensive tenacity we saw from them last night against Fordham, this is a team that can absolutely take the CAA.
I'm going to put it at 1-3. I think that Hofstra, JMU, and UNCW are the 3 teams. I think they're all pretty evenly matched. William & Mary, they've made 3 consecutive trips to the CAA tournament, but they lose Antonio Bustamante, Ryder Bell, who combined for 9 goals and a whole bunch of assists last season. I don't think they're as strong as they were. I'm not as high on them as I was, so I'm going to go 1-3. It's going to be JMU, UNCW, Hofstra, flip a 3-sided coin, and we'll see what happens.
All right, well, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
Andrew, you okay? You going to come after him anymore, or he's good?
No, Justin's safe for now. Justin's safe for until prediction hour.
All right, thank you again to Justin and everybody who contributed here to this men's soccer hour of the Fall Sports Preview Show. We want to thank our engineers, our engineer Tyler Martineau, his engineer assists, Vinny Laspinuso, Ryan Janio, and Max Underhill. BTP done by Justin Huntsman. The updates done by Jason Siegel. One more hour to go. Hour number 5 coming up here at the Fall Sports Preview Show. We'll be back in a little bit. They're going to start off with some other hosts, but we'll be back. Don't worry, guys. Don't go anywhere. Prediction Hour is coming here of the 2019 Fall Sports Preview Show. Alrighty, folks. That'll do it for our 5-hour-long 2019 Fall Sports Preview Show. Special thank you to all our hosts, package producers, as well as the producer of the entire show, Julia Presti. For Andrew Bachglupo, Tony Puglisi, Jesse Lindell, Max Sacco, Ryan E., Julia Presti, Kyle Byrne, Grant Francis Land, Susan Gabby Brano, Andrew Dole. I'm Kenny Conrad, signing off, saying have a good night, and enjoy the fall sports, people.
Proudly broadcasting from the Richard Philip Cavallero Studio.
WRHU.
Hempstead.
You discovered
a cornerstone of the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication.
WRHU.